Hello. On some tunes real quick. That's not, yeah, there we go. Oh, cool, cool. Hello and welcome in. Let me turn down the brightness real quick. Okay. So, this is going to be a Magic the Gathering Brothers War set review. I'm going to be specifically talking about Limited and Standard, and I will be covering both with when I'm talking about the cards. There will be some cards I just completely skip over just because they're cards that everybody's seen before and we know how they're going to interact, but we'll see. We'll just get started from the top. As you can see here, I have the Scryfall listing pulled up, and I'm just gonna talk about every single one of these cards. At least briefly. I might go like a sentence or two on them. I don't plan to like go into detail on just draft chaff, but we'll see. So let's start with Aeronaut Cavalry. So, okay. So, when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on another target soldier you control. It's a 5-mana 3/4 flyer. It's already, like, decent enough of a flyer to be playable. And it has soldier synergy, and soldier is one of the sub-themes of the set, so yes, this is definitely playable. It's probably not the first choice. I mean, it's not the first choice you'd take for, like, a 5-drop, but it's good. It's a good flyer. It's a good body. If we're talking limited. Standard, no way. This card does not see play in standard. It's too slow. Hello, hi. Hello, chat. Hi, Elise. E. Alright. Let's see here. So there's not really much to say about this card. It's good and limited. If you're playing white, that's a card that you would want. Okay. Next one is Airlift Chaplain. Let's open up a few of these at once. So we can just go from card to card. I'm not thinking too hard about what I want to say about the cards. Okay. Airlift Chaplain. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. This is a 3-mana flyer, 1/1 human cleric, so note that it isn't a soldier, it doesn't synergize there. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. You may put a plains or creature card with mana value 3 or less among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you don't, which means if you don't put any cards into your hand, put a +1/+1 counter on Chaplain. So I'm thinking that this is definitely just like this is technically white card draw if you think about it like that. So when you're playing cards like this, you're usually playing like lower cost creatures because you want to have CMC. I'm sorry, mana value 3 or less. They don't do CMC anymore. Um, so I think this is good. And even if you don't somehow if you don't manage to hit a plains or a creature card mana value 3 or less in your deck, it's still a 3-mana 2/2 flyer, so it's good in limited, definitely good in limited. I would play this, uh, unless I was flashing another color, in which case I could probably do card draw a lot easier. If I was playing white-red or white-black, or for some reason, like, this isn't a soldier, so you don't, the soldier synergy isn't a thing you need to worry about, but, yeah, it's okay. I think it's good enough in limited, but, like, even then there's gonna be better options, most certainly. Ambush Paratrooper. Now this card, this is one that I think is really good. I think it might... I don't want to go on record saying this, but I think it might be good enough for standard. It's a 2-mana 1/2 flash flyer. It's a human soldier. You can pay 5, no colors. You can pay 5. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of the turn. The reason why I say that I think this is playable outside of limited is because you can use the Power Stones to activate his ability, and it doesn't require any colors, right? So you can just dump into that like over and over again. It's not +1/+1 vigilance. It's not like a great pump, but this is one of those cards that I think we'll see a lot of limited play in that regard because it's a pretty good stat line. 2-mana 1/2 flash flyer. I mean, it's a Stormcrow with an upside, so it's like, I mean, it's Stormcrow with flash, and you can pump. So like, drop this at the end of your opponent's turn when they're not expecting you to do anything, and then pump your board the next turn and pretty much win. It might be a win more creature, but honestly, 2 mana 1/2 flyer, at least it's a chump for flyers. Calamity's Wake. Okay, this card is, so here's the thing. This card's going to see a lot of standard play. It definitely will see play in Limited, mostly because there's so much graveyard-related stuff in Limited. There's, there's Unearth, and that's one thing that a lot of people are worrying about is Unearthed cards. So, like, you know, they get these massive bodies back from the graveyard, and you can just cast Calamity's Wake and remove everything. Exile all graveyards, and don't have to worry about graveyard synergy in Limited, so it's definitely going to see some play in Limited, probably limited play in Limited. But Standard, yes, this card's going to see sideboard play nonstop, just because there's so much graveyard-related stuff. I mean, this card is literally worth running just for 2 specific cards, and that's Graveyard Trespasser and Underdog. So you're definitely going to be playing this in the sideboard if you're playing any sort of white. There's a white-blue control deck that's looking pretty promising right now with all the cards that we've been seeing, which we'll talk about. But this card's definitely going to be sideboarded very easily. I don't think it's good enough to be in the main board. It's definitely a sideboard all-star. Anyway, moving on. Deadly Riposte, 1 and a white, instant, deal 3 damage to target tapped creature, gain 2 life. I would say that, I mean, this is going to be a decent bit of removal in Limited, but the fact that it doesn't destroy target creature is kind of iffy, because it's, white already struggles enough when it comes to, like, weird board removal in Limited. This card's not playable in Standard, don't even think about it. So, the fact that it's an instant and it deals damage to a tap creature is good. Okay, life gain is negligible, unless it's a limited game, because there you go, it'll probably be relevant. Thank you for the hydration check. But you take a look at this card, and this is definitely something you would play if you don't have any other removal options. I don't think this isn't a bad removal option by any means. It's pretty solid. It's like you can get rid of something in the early game. There's a lot of low toughness creatures with this set. So I think, I genuinely think that this is, I know I started off on the wrong foot talking about it being a bad card, but talking it over with myself, it's not terrible. It's good. It's good and limited. You will not see this in Standard. There's so many better removal options, but it's good and limited. Disenchant. Seeing Disenchant in Standard, this is probably one of the more relevant times for Disenchant to be reprinted, because there's so many artifacts, there's so many enchantments. There's that, like, really fringe blue, green, white, or Selesnya enchantment deck, and there's gotta be so many artifacts. I mean, you're never gonna feel bad disenchanting one of your opponent's giant creatures, and I guarantee we'll get to a card that I'm thinking of that'll be, wow, you spend 2 mana to destroy a giant, like, 7/5 creature. You'll see, but Disenchant, I'm glad to see it. I think it needed to be printed in a Standard that's so heavy in the artifact and enchantment synergies, and I'm definitely looking forward to disenchanting some of my opponent's massive stuff. Great Desert Prospector. So this is a 4 and a white for a 3/5 human artificer. When it enters the battlefield, you create a tapped Power Stone token for each other creature you control. This will probably not see a lot of play in Limited. It's conditional ramp. It's and very conditional ramp. Not only, I mean, even if this said create a treasure token for each other creature you control, it's a win more card. You know, like, I mean, tapped Power Stone, and I mean, you're going to be casting artifacts in Limited, because there's a lot of artifacts, and you will be casting that kind of stuff, and you'll be activating abilities. Here's the thing, this is a human artificer. This doesn't have soldier synergy. It's a very iffy card. I don't think it'll see a whole lot of play in Limited. In Standard, no, probably not at all. Way too expensive. If it was 4 mana, maybe. If it was 3 mana, yes, it would see a lot of play, but it's 5 mana, so it's a 3/2 body. It's not anything impressive. So meh all around. In the Trenches. This is 1 and 2 white for enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1, which that's, honestly, I think that's already good enough. But The second line reads, 5 in a white, exile target non-land permanent you don't control until in the trenches leaves the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery and only once. I was listening to Saffron Olive talk about this card, and I'm inclined to agree that this is one of those cards that it's if you wanted more wedding invitations in your deck, this would be the card that you pick. One thing he didn't really touch on is the fact that we're going to seeing a lot of Power Stones in the standard. So if you're playing some sort of like mid-range deck that creates Power Stones, that second ability, activating it with your Power Stones, that's a feel-good moment because you actually have a dump for that. And the thing is, I don't see your opponents prioritizing getting rid of this over getting rid of your creatures. I'm just trying to think, because like Disenchant's in standard, like we were just talking about, we just saw the card. So, talking from a standard standpoint, I think that this is a very, very playable card, and definitely will see play. Well, to be honest, I don't know why it's mythic, but I think it's a really great card. But this just screams rare to me. But it'll definitely see play. It's a Lord effect that happens right away. And if you're looking for a reason to just... I mean, this is a Lord effect that combines itself with removal. So, it's not a bad card. Limited, this is busted. You know, you're gonna play this, and if you have, like, even a few creatures, like that 2 mana 1/2 Flash Flare, it becomes a 2/3, all of your stuff gets pumped, all your 1/1 construct artifact creature tokens are gonna be buffed. It's a good card. And then, there's not a huge chance that your opponent removes this in Limited either, because the idea of that they're running a Disenchant main board, or like some sort of like removal main board that'll take care of an enchantment and an artifact themed set, it's kind of iffy. But at the same time, this card's really good. This card is really good in Limited. This card is... We'll have to see with Standard. I think it'll definitely be playing Standard, because people are always looking for more Lord effects. Because, like, think about it. You play your Wedding Invitation, and you draw your card, and draw in the trenches. Your Wedding Invitation's still drawing your cards, and your in the trenches is buffing everything again, instantly. Like, you play it 3 mana, and you're getting 1/1s off of your Wedding Invitation. It's just a good card. It's just a really good card. Let's go back to our list here. Got some interesting ones coming up. Open these all up. White looks like a very strange color in this set. It definitely has the potential to do something like absolutely nuts. But we'll get to that. So, Kayla's command. I am already skeptic about the commands, mostly because they're sorceries. Normally when you have a command, you want to be able to do it at instant speed. There's a reason that the commands from Tarkir were so good. It's because you could do that at instant speed. The fact that I think Urza's one is the only one with instant speed. I could be wrong. I think Mishra's might be at instant speed. But doing Kale's command, I would have preferred if it was 4 mana but instant speed. But anyway, 1 and 2 white for sorcery. Kale's command. Choose 2. So choose 2 of the following. Create a 2/2 colorless construct artifact creature token. Put +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, gains double strike until the end of the turn. Search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle, or you gain 2 life and scry 2. So, what we're looking at here is 3 mana, make a 2/2, and you're probably going to make it a 2/2 like 9 times out of 10, and there's just an upside, so you can make 3 mana, make a 2/2, grab a plains card. You can gain 2 life and scry 2. A lot of people compare scrying to drawing a single card. I think that's fair enough. And put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control and against double strike. I'm not overlooking that effect. I think it's really powerful. They'll probably end games in Limited. This card is good in Limited. Mostly just because of the consistency and the amount of value that it has, and like the things that it does. Standard, there's so many other better options in white, I feel. But, like, at the same time, this could see play. Like, it's one of those cards that it's hard to predict whether or not it's good enough or not. Because this is essentially, if you're looking at it from a certain perspective, it's a 3 mana, make a 2/2, and then do something else. So 3 mana, make a 2/2, grab a planes, it doesn't feel bad. 3 mana, make a 2/2, gain 2 life, scry 2. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but there is... The artifact is at least synergistic with a lot of other things you're trying to do. And the nice thing about the artifact is you can make the 2/2 artifact and then make it a 3/3. It may not gain double strike. The double strike may not be relevant, but making a 3/3 might be relevant. You know, there's... I wish it was instant. That's like the verdict of this card. I just wish it was instant. Kayla's Reconstruction. This card is a lot more interesting than the previous one, just because this card is like a balanced version of Coco, Collected Command. So, Collected Company, sorry, got the command on the mind. Kayla's Reconstruction is X and 3 white for sorcery, and again, sorcery, not instant speed. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put up to X artifact and/or creature cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and put the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. So, I think a lot of people are overlooking the artifact portion of this card. The idea of, yeah, you can put your 3 mana creatures on the board, sure. There's a lot of great 3 mana creatures in Standard right now, but or 3 mana or less. So you're looking at like Thalia, you're looking at the Anointed Peacekeeper. You know, like those are. I'm thinking just white cards too. I'm thinking pretty limited here. This card in limited is iffy. You're going to be playing a lot of 3-drops and stuff like that. 3 drops or less in limited, and you basically pay X. And that X that you pay is the amount of things that you can put onto the battlefield. So most of the time you're going to be probably X equals 2, just like Collected Company. So you're going to be paying 5 mana to put an artifact or a creature with mana value 3 or less onto the battlefield. Doing that too, yeah, but you're looking at the top 7. Always looking at the top 7. It's it's an iffy one. I think it'll be good just because of the fact that it's not going to whiff very often if you build your deck correctly. And limited, I don't think it's going to whiff very often either, because like you're going to probably have artifacts that cost 3 or less too, and you're definitely going to have a lot of creatures that cost 3 or less. So this, and limited, this might be a card that just swings the game. And Standard, do you want to pay 5 mana for maybe 6 mana value worth of things? It's an iffy say there. I mean, it's kind of a toss-up. It's there's a lot of things that white does in Standard right now that's very quick, fast, and mean. Is this a top end for a white deck? No, because like you're not really wanting to pay 6 or 7 mana for this. You're wanting to pay 2, so it'd be like 5. So it'd be like the top end of your mid range, but I feel like there's better things you could spend your mana on. I can't think of any right now, but like. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I feel like the card will see play and people will test it and see if it's like a balanced Coco, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think it's a good card. I just don't have a lot of faith though. Lay Down Arms. This is 1 white for a sorcery. Exile a target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of planes you control, and its controller gains 3 life. So we're looking at a sorcery speed. Sorcery speed, kind of I would say that this is usually a Swords to Plowshares at sorcery speed. It's 1 white, so it's not setting you back too much. And if you're playing a deck that has a lot of planes in it, or you're playing a lot of dual lanes that have planes tag on them, yeah, this is a great card. But most of the time, you're going to be removing 2 or 3 drops with this. So, is it a great card? Yeah, absolutely, because there's a lot of and the exile is very relevant in the Standard that we're in. Because, I mean, if you're exiling something like Underdog, that feels good. Because all you gotta have is 2 planes to exile that, right? Think about it. So, or, you know, like a Cult Conscript, you know, the Dominarius 1 mana 2/1 skeleton that's seeing some play in mono black aggro. So, you limited. Let me go back to limited. Yes, this card's good. If you're playing at least 2 or 3 planes. If you can consistently get 2 or 3 planes on the battlefield, yes, I think this card's good. In Standard, you are not playing Lay Down Arms in an aggro deck. You're playing it in sort of like a Death and Taxes style control deck, I think. So, that blue-white deck that we were talking about, that blue-white control deck, I think that this would be the card that you put that, or that would be the deck that you put this in. It's really good removal, and it's better than Faithful Absence because I think 3 life is a lot more negligible than giving your opponent a clue token that they can draw a card with. So I think Lay Down Arms in a lot of decks is going to replace Fateful Absence. Also, the fact, yeah, it's a sorcery, but it's 1 white mana. So that's my argument there. I feel like the mana cost is efficient enough to where you can just be like, okay, you can overlook the sorcery part of this card. Limited, yes. Standard, probably yes. Lauren of the Third Path. So people are calling this the White Rex Sage. So you already know that I'm gonna say this card's good. So anyway, it's Lauren of the Third Path. For those of you that don't know, Lauren is the I believe the wife of Felden. Oh, did we disconnect? Oh, you just had a bit rate spike. Okay, all good, all good. Okay. Lauren of the Third Path, so 2 and a white for a 2/1 with Vigilance. So Vigilance is kind of it's a Vigilance is always sort of negligible. When it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. So yeah, it's a White Rex Sage. It's a 3 mana 2/1 with Vigilance that destroys an artifact or an enchantment. Very relevant, I think. This is a really good limited card for that reason. And then the second line is tap, you and target opponent each draw a card. So the Vigilance is kind of relevant there. So you can sort of attack in, I know I just said it's negligible, but hear me out. So in limited, you're attacking in for 2. Vigilance. Don't tap it. And you hit because your opponent doesn't trade. Or even if they do trade, you can tap this in response. Draw a card. Your opponent's drawing a card. You don't want that. But I think you're probably most of the time not going to activate that unless you're desperately looking for a solution. My personal opinion would be to best thing to do would obviously be to attack it on the end of your opponent's turn, so they can't make use of the card that you just drew. I would never activate this on your turn if you could help it, unless it's like desperate or your opponent, opponent targets it with some sort of removal. But no, just 3 mana 2/1 destroy target artifact or enchantment, and in this environment, very good. This is gonna be a great limited card. Standard. Maybe, probably not. I don't think so. I think there might be better options in that regard for standard. We do have disenchant, but I don't know. Spending 3 mana to have a body that can potentially benefit you with cards. It's an iffy one. It's a weird one. White cards that do something for your opponent are usually just sort of like, but this one makes you think. But regardless, it's interesting. I'll say that much. It's definitely it's a bomb and limited. It's has potential in standard. We'll have to see. I don't think so though. But this is so we have Lauren of the Third Path. This is Lauren, Disciple of History. So whenever she or another legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. 4 mana 3/3. Return something from the graveyard on the ETB. Probably not. I mean, 4 mana 3/3, hit the battlefield, grab something that's unearthed back, something that died, your opponent killed it. 4 mana 3/3 is not a bad body. I'm limited. Standard, this card does not see play. But limited, maybe. I think this card definitely has potential in limited. The idea of just grabbing back a card and having a 3/3 body, yeah, sure. Otherwise, I don't think this card's super exciting. Lauren's Escape, yeah, we're talking about Lauren a lot. Okay, so 1 white for an instant. Target artifact or creature gains Hexproof and Indestructible until the end of the turn. Scry 1. So we just saw Tamiyo Safekeeping in Kamigawa, and I can tell you one thing, the card will see play. Yeah, so like, this card is very, very good. Like, I mean, it probably won't see a whole. It'll definitely see play in limited. It's a good enough card in limited to where it's just like hexproof and indestructible. That's kind of nuts. Like giving it both, it's gonna see play. It will. I guarantee it. Standard, yeah, I don't know if White's looking for this. I mean, White, if we're gonna talk White has a lot of ways to sort of, like, already make you feel bad for trying to blow up their stuff. So, I don't know. It'll see play. It'll see play. I'll say that much. But Cameo Safekeeping sees play. This card will see play. But Cameo Safekeeping sees some fringe play, so we don't see a whole lot of it. But we'll see. I don't know. I think White needs effects like this. I think it's good. Moving on to the next card. Mass Production. 5 and White Sorcery. Create 4 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens. Limited, probably a trap. I don't see this card being that amazing unless you're looking specifically for artifact-based synergies. Standard, no, this card does not see play. I'm not going to talk about it too much. It's 6 mana create tokens. That's the artifact synergy is relevant. And it's also soldier, so if you're playing a soldier-heavy deck and limited, yes, this is a card that you probably might want to drop. I mean, worst case scenario, you're making 4 1/1 chumps. That's not always the worst. So, best case scenario, you're buffing the hell out of your soldiers, and you're playing a bunch of 1/1s that are soldiers and artifacts, so relevant. Meticulous Excavation. 1 white for an enchantment, 2 and a white, return target permanent you control to its owner's hand. If it has Unearth, instead exile it, then return that card to its owner's hand. Activate only during your turn. So let's think about this. Limited, no. Probably not. That being said, this card is like a weak flicker. It's like a crappy flicker. You grab something back to your hand like a Loran to blow up the person's artifact or enchantment again. That seems good enough. Worse, the thing is that bothers me the most about this card is you play it. If you play, if you draw this card, it really feels bad when you're looking for something good. I mean, like, this is a really feels bad when you're looking for something to, like, match up against your opponent, because it literally is 1 mana do nothing. But if you set this up in the early game, and make some, like, choice trades and keep bouncing things and stuff like that, oh yeah, this card's good. It's also target permanent, so you can prevent things from getting blown up, so it might be a little bit of, like, a solid thing to, like, protect your stuff, if you, especially in Limited, where you're probably going to have mana to spare, and you can spend Power Stone mana on this. Standard, no. This sees no play. Limited, maybe, in, like, a sort of, like, control-y shell, yeah, I think it could see play. Probably not, though. There's a lot of better 1 mana white options, as we've seen. Yeah, we're about to see another one. I'm going to start keeping it more brief with some of these cards, because there's no point of getting really in-depth with a lot of them. Let's see here. Okay. Military Discipline. 1 mana, flash enchant creature. They gain first strike until the end of turn. Transit creature gets +1/+0. Good combat trick for limited, not playable in standard. I think it's pretty much as simple as that. Okay, wow, this is a card that I'm going to have to talk about. Morel, Shield of Argive. Ryan Pankos did the art for this. Sorry, I haven't been talking about artists at all lately, but I saw this post. I remember when Ryan posted the art for this on Twitter, and I was really excited to see what this card actually did, because everybody was assuming it was going to be like, pretty much a hate bear. But no, we see it's a 4 mana 3/4, so 3 and a white for a 3/4 legendary creature, human soldier. That's relevant. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments that can't cast spells or activate abilities. It does not say that non-mana related abilities. So Power Stones are not working. The creatures can't tap, enchantments can't be activated, so you're in the trenches can't be activated, none of that. When she attacks, you create X colorless 1/1. I'm sorry, you create X 1/1 colorless soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control. At worst, you are making a 1/1. At best, you're making a lot of 1/1s. And the wonderful thing about Morel is that we've seen a lot of effects like Bramaz and Adeline and stuff like that. She is going to be amazing in Standard. Because here's the thing. Most of the time, what's frustrating about Adeline and Bramaz, both of those being powerful cards, is the fact that the token can just swing in and it usually gets chomped, right? These tokens stay back. Which I honestly think that makes this card super, super relevant. And in Limited, this card's insane. And in Standard, this card's great. Insane is not a great description. This card is really, really solid and Limited. It's a 4-mana 3/4 body that deprives your opponent of something, so, you're getting stacked. With the idea of you can't cast spells, activate abilities of artifacts or creatures or enchantments. You basically can't do a whole lot during your turn. Your opponents can't do a whole lot during your turn, so they're gonna have to play instant speed stuff during their turn, which is really feels bad. And even in Limited, where you don't see a whole lot of that, where you're going to see a lot more creatures, that's a feels bad. In Standard, that's a really feels bad, because a lot of the decks right now are running things like, there's a lot of removal, there's a lot of mono black removal that can't get in. It has to be Infernal Grasp on their turn, so you think about that, like, the mono black is really popular right now, so think about mono black. They can't Infernal Grasp or use any sort of removal during your turn, which they rely on to be able to play their creatures in the next turn, and like they're the stuff they want to do. This card is mean. I love it. I really like it. I feel like Standard needs a card like this to bully mono black, especially considering mono black is dominating Standard. The idea of, just like stopping your opponent from doing things during your turn is relevant. There's also a lot of mono blue going around. This also does that. This creature, though, I'm afraid it's going to catch counter. Like, this thing is just like, we need to take care of this instantly or the game's pretty much over, because Morel gets bigger and bigger, essentially. But by bigger, I mean she gets wider and wider, because like all of these 1/1 soldiers, it'll overwhelm the board. This card, I really, really want to build like a Death and Taxes in Standard, because we have Thalia, we have Morel, we have Anointed Peacekeeper. We have so many cards and elements to just like prevent your opponents from doing things. So I say screw it. Why not more? There's also a card we'll be talking about very soon that's in white that prevents your opponents from playing things. But yes, this card, love it. It's one of my I think it's probably my guaranteed top 5 cards from the deck. This set, excuse me. Baling's Vanguard. 1 mana and 1 white for a 2/2 with Vigilance. Pretty okay. And whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+0 until the end of the turn. It's a good body for 2 mana in Limited, and Standard it doesn't see any play whatsoever. It's not good enough. But I don't know. It may be in fringe aggro decks, but anyway. Excuse me. Power Stone Engineer. 1 and a white for a 2/1. When it dies, create a tap Power Stone token. Limited, yes. Standard, probably not. The idea of having a blocker and Limited to create a Power Stone token that can ramp you later, yes, that's really good. And Standard, there's better ways of doing it, I feel. Prison Sentence, typical enchantment-based removal. So 2 and a white, enchant a creature. Scry 2, which is relevant. They can't block. It's a pacify, essentially. Pacify, but activated abilities can't be activated. I think that's relevant. This will definitely see play on Limited. Standard, maybe. I mean, we still have Brutal Cathar and all that, so I don't know. We'll see. This will definitely see play after the more relevant removal stuff gets out. The fact that it can't activate abilities is relevant, I feel. Also, that card, yes. Very playable. Limited, its removal. Recommission. Wow. Okay, this card in Limited, yes. 1 and a white for a sorcery. Return target artifact or creature card with mana value 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. If it enters the battlefield this way, it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Yes. Yes. This card's really good. This card, they gave white some really good recursion, and I feel like Recommission is a really solid thing, because, like, I mean, think about in Limited, you're grabbing back a lot of good cards with this. Like, you're grabbing back a lot of the previous cards we talked about, the soldiers and stuff like that, and the artifacts we haven't even talked about yet, with mana value 3 or less. In Standard, we were talking about mana value 3 or less. So let's think about how you can grab back stuff like Thalia, and I keep talking about the same things. Brutal Cathar, you can grab back some seriously good cards with this. And I feel like Recommission is going to see standard play, because this card is just really solid, because it's just like, oh, my opponent blew up my Brutal Cathar. Anyway, I'm going to play a Recommission, replay my Brutal Cathar, and it's going to have a +1/+1 counter on it. Or I'm going to replay my Thalia, which already took them 1 extra mana to get rid of, and that was like the only spell they had, so I'm going to put it back onto the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. That being said, I feel like most of your 3-mana stuff is still going to get died or removal, obviously, but more so, trying to remember the name of the spell. I play this spell. Cut Down, sorry, excuse me. Cut Down is probably still going to hit a lot of creatures that you get back with this, but at the same time, there's so many good 3-mana creatures we haven't even talked about yet right now, so this card's good. Very good. Limited, yes, it will see a lot of play. Recruitment Officer. Another example of something you can grab back. 1 mana, 2/1, you can pay 4. So 3 and a white. So look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal a creature card with mana value 3 or less among them. Put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Look at top 4 for 4. Grab one with 3 or less. I mean, this will definitely see play. This card's very good in limited. In standard, yeah, I think it's a good enough, like, mana dump. I don't know. It's not like Recruiter of the Guard or like Recruitment Officer. But the fact that you can activate it over and over again, especially if you don't have anything, I think that's relevant. But if you're spending 4 mana to do this in standard, it's a good card in limit. It's probably okay in standard. Repair and Recharge. Okay, this is the other recursion spell that is probably going to be disgustingly relevant. So Repair and Recharge. 3 and 2 white for a sorcery. Return target artifact, enchantment, or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Artifact, enchantment, planeswalker. Create a tap Power Stone token. So people are already doing goofy stuff with this. They're pitching Gate to Phyrexia, which we'll talk about. They're pitching Gate to Phyrexia. They're, you can throw an expensive Planeswalker in the graveyard. There's not a whole lot of super expensive Planeswalkers right now. But, I mean, you can imagine repairing and recharging a Wandering Emperor just to blow up something, right? And the enchantment thing is one with Multiverse, which is our, like, diet version of Omnipotence. And you create Power Stone token, that's just icing on the cake. Having a 5-mana retrieval spell in white, very nice to see. Also, grabbing artifacts, enchantments, or planeswalkers may not hit creatures, but honestly, hitting those 3 things, you're hitting a lot of stuff. There's a lot of artifacts. There's going to be the Temporal Anchor. There's going to be the Omnipotence I was talking about. And I'm trying to think what else is. I mean, this thing is nuts. Like, in worst case scenario, if your opponent removes one of the things that you need to have on the board in order to keep control of it, you can just get it back with Repair and Recharge. This card's good. We're glad to see white doing recursive things, because white needs. I think white can do well with recursion. I'm not saying white's bad by any stretch of the imagination without it, but it's cool to see them bringing things back from the graveyard again. Well, in limited, in standard, yes, very much. Very much, yes. Siege Veteran. Okay, so this is a 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. As your soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, so this can buff itself. So this is, already, if you think about it, this is a 3-mana version of, what is the name of that? There's a 2-mana creature from Zendikar. I can't remember the name of it because I hated that card, playing against that card so much. It was basically just buffed itself every turn. You know what the card I'm talking about is. It's the 2-mana 1/1 cleric that at the beginning of combat on your turn you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. You know the one. And this is a 3-mana version of that instead of 2. And it says, whenever a non-token soldier you control dies, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. The second line of text is a little less relevant. The top line of text, we have already seen it do nasty, nasty things in standard last year. and this is just 1 mana more expensive. It's good. And limited, nuts. If you don't get rid of this immediately, it's going to become a huge problem. Standard, we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of great 3-drops competing for like the 3-drop spot. I think this is definitely good. I'm not sure if it's good. I don't know if it's good enough to beat out the other 3-drops, so that's what's weird. But yeah, great card. Soul Partition. So this is one of the control spells I was talking about. 1 and a white, exile target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. Creature cast by an opponent, this will cost 2 more to cast. So it's an elite spellbinder, but it's a 2-mana instant instead. Obviously, this is playable. This is a very good card. We've already seen nasty things with it from people doing the pre-release events and stuff like that. I don't need to really say anything more. This card's good. It's very good. It's gonna be. It might have less of an effect on limited, because playing this against an opponent who has a lot of mana is not really going to do that much. But in the early game, if you can like slow your opponent down unlimited, slowing your opponent down limited is pretty crippling. And standard, yes. Just yes. Static Net. So whenever the CTBs exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Static Net leaves the battlefield. This is 3 and a white. And whenever it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and create a tapped Power Stone creature token. Tapped Power Stone token. This will see play. It says non-land permanent, so it is an O-ring, but it's a 4-mana O-ring. But it gives you a Power Stone. Yeah, the life gain's negligible. And limited, yes. And standard, we have Leyline Binding. I'm just saying. So this is probably not going to do play. Survivor of Corliss, 1 mana, 1/1 with first strike, and you can exile it from your graveyard to Discretion. Limited, yes. Standard, no. I mean, this is a 1 mana, 1/1 with an upside, so, and it's going to die, and you can benefit from it dying, so there you go. Easy peasy. Yeah, Survivor of Corliss. That was the last card we talked about. So let's talk about the rest. I mean, we're almost done with white. Very cool. I'm just pulling up all the remaining white cards just so I can go through them. I'll be brief about a lot of these because there's not really much to say about a lot of them, and we'll get into blue. Thopter Architect, 4 mana, 2/3. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gains flying until the end of the turn. Limited, okay. You're going to see a lot of artifacts hitting the battlefield, and flying is going to be relevant. You can probably, on some turns, give 2 or 3 creatures flying. Standard, no. Not at all. No way. So Cassius, welcome. 2 and a white. Whenever 1 or more creatures with mana value, note the mana value 3 or less, enter the battlefield under control, draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn. I think that this card is probably too slow for standard. But, there's always the but. Limited, this card's pretty great. Like, if because there's a lot of mana value 3 or less matters, as we have seen with white. So, and also just creating a token, will give you a card off of this. It's very reminiscent, welcoming, vampire. So, this will play. I don't, there's so many, like I said, there's so many good 3-drops. It's just hard to, if you can get this card down early, I think, yeah, it's relevant. There might even be a space for it in an enchantment stack, who knows. Union of the Third Path, 2 and a white. For an instant, draw a card, and then you gain life equal to the number of cards in your hand. It's a white card that draws a card, and then you gain life. I think it's a trap. It's really one of the cards that you never want to draw, essentially. And limited, I mean, gaining... How much life would you be gaining when you're casting this instead of something else? Probably like 5, 6, 7. If you're casting this out of desperation, draw a card, gain a life, you might gain 1, 2, 3 life. This card is not as good as everybody thinks it is. There's no body to it. There's just a life gain effect. And as we've seen very often in Magic the Gathering, their life gain does not win the game. So, standard, no. Limited might be a trap. Warlords Elite, 2 and a 1 for a 4/4. Wow, that looks good, right? 3 mana 4/4. As an additional cost to cast a spell, tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Artifacts, creatures, and or lands. Doesn't seem as good, right? So we're looking at 5 mana for a 4/4. If you have Power Stones, sure, yeah. If you have artifacts on the battlefield already, great. This is essentially, if you think about it, this is a Convoke card. Are you willing to Convoke for like 5 mana-ish to get a 4/4? Probably not. Ever. Not even unlimited. Yodian Medic, this is a 2 and a white for a 1/4 human cleric soldier. A lot of creature types. Lifelink. It's okay in limited. It's not playable in standard. Easy as that. Autonomous Assembler, wow, this card is interesting. So it's a 5 and a 4/5, and it has the prototype, so this is the first time I've seen the prototype. So you can essentially cast this spell with a different mana cost, color, and size, and it keeps its abilities and types. So if you pay 1 and a white, you get a 2/2, with it has the ability on the bottom line, instead of 5 mana 4/5. It has Vigilance, and you can pay 1 and tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on target assembly worker you control. I feel like... I think I'm the only person that feels this. I think there's enough assembly workers for it to be relevant. If you take a look at Mishra's Factory, which we'll see in a little while, Mishra's Factory is an assembly worker, and you just put a +1/+1 counter on that. You just have a creature land that you keep buffing over and over again. You play this for 2 mana, you're attacking with a 2 mana 2/2, and it can buff itself. I don't think this card is anywhere near as bad as people keep saying it is. I think it's great. If you're playing this for 5 mana for a 4/5 in the late game, that might feel bad. But like at the same time, you're also putting a 5 mana 4/5 body with Vigilance on, and then it had an upside, so it's like it's definitely really good unlimited. Standard, a lot of great 2-drops in white. I'm just saying, and this thing is iffy. It puts counters on essentially itself. There's not a lot of assembly workers, but I'm just saying, Mishra's Factory is an assembly worker when you make it a creature, so that might be relevant. I think it is. I don't think a lot of people aren't talking about it, but I think it is. Combat Pressures. So 7 mana 3/3, so we got another prototype. So it's a 7 mana 3/3 on its face with double strike, and whenever it ATBs, draw a card. So it's 2 and a white for a 1/1 if you prototype it. So you're essentially paying 3 mana for a 1/1 with double strike that draws a card. Is that good? Yes, I think it's great. I think cantrip creatures and white are relevant and great. I think that this card is no different. Limited? Hell yes, this card's really great. Standard? We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, there are a lot of 3-drops that this competes with, so I don't think it's good enough in Standard. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Platoon Dispenser. So this is the mama that poops out soldier tokens. Soldier artifact tokens. 5 mana, 4/6. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more other creatures, draw a card. Other creatures, so you'd have to have 3 creatures total on the battlefield. But you can pay 4 and white to create a 1/1 soldier token. So a colorless soldier artifact creature token. So let's ask the question. Is paying 4 mana for a 1/1 good? Most of the time, no. 5 mana, 4/6. If you control 2 or more other creatures, draw a card. You benefit from having more creatures on the board. And this thing is also, you can also unearth this thing to bring it back, and the trigger of drawing cards before it dies. I mean, I think that this card's really good. I'm trying to think of a deck that it might fit in other than soldiers, but like soldiers is the why board matters sort of like sub-theme of this set. So, this card, 5 mana 4/6, already good. 5 mana 4/6 with a bunch of upsides. You can create soldiers to benefit if you don't already have a battlefield. So it's not a win more card, it's a bring back and then win more card. I think that this card's great. I think it's awesome. I think it's very cool, and I like the idea of a giant platoon that just like a giant walking crab that just pops out soldiers. Very cool. Very inspiring for world building based stuff. Anyway, yes. Limited? Absolutely. Standard. We'll have to wait and see, but I like it a lot. It's a cool card. Trapper Cohort. So this is a 4 mana 3/1. Whenever it enters the battle, it'll create a 1/1 soldier creature token and then unearth You pay 2 and a white. For those of you that don't know what Unearth is, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile at the beginning of the next end step, or if it would leave the battlefield. You can only unearth as a sorcery. So the whole idea is we play this, we get a 1-1, and then we can unearth it later to get another 1-1. Is this card good and limited? Yes, absolutely. Having creatures on the board is always relevant. Standard? No, not at all. This card's just good enough in limited, I feel. Steel Seraph. Here we go. Artifact Creature Angel. This is really cool. Gives me like Neon Genesis vibes. So Steel Seraph, we have a 6-mana 5/4 flyer. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains your choice of flying, vigilance, or lifelink. So this is one of those white creatures that picks 3 keywords and then gives it to one of the creatures. Here's the thing. Prototype. 1 white for 3/3 flyer. And it says target creature you control gains flying, vigilance, or lifelink. So this can give itself vigilance or lifelink. It already has flying, so why would you do that? Is this good enough? It's a 3-drop. It's another 3-drop that's competing with other 3-drops. So it's like, I want this card to be really good. In limited, oh yeah, this card's really great. In standard, I would want to see this card played because it's such a cool looking card. It's a 3-mana. It's most of the time going to be playing it as a 3-mana 3/3 flyer that can buff anything on the board, including itself, with flying, vigilance, or lifelink. Are flying, vigilance, or lifelink relevant keywords? In limited, yes, flying wins games in limited. In standard, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. This is another one of those 3-drops that just needs to be tested to see which of these 3-drops is the best, because white has so many good 3-drops. Just like, how do you pick? So Cassia's Amulet. It's a 5-mana 4/4. It's a construct. Whenever it leaves the battlefield, you gain 2 life. Limited, probably barely playable. Standard, not at all. I like the art though, it's cute. Urza's Silex. Wow, this is a card that needs to be talked about. People were asking for land destruction. This is kind of land destruction. Not really, though. Urza's Silex is a 3-mana legendary artifact, and you can pay 2 and 2 white to exile it. Each player chooses 6 lands they control, and then they destroy all other permanents. Activate this only as a sorcerer. Whenever it is put into exile from the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, search your library for a Planeswalker card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. So this card's really good. I mean, it's better than... I actually think it's better than Karn's Silex. The idea that it just... Yeah, you pick 6 lands and blow everything else up. It's a good board-wide removal. And the fact that you can technically pay 6 mana when you exile it, and get a Planeswalker card, or if your opponent even removes it, and you just... Or actually, it has to be put into exile from the battlefield in order to do that. So, exile, you're probably going to be getting that off. I mean, you are blowing up the board, paying 2 mana to get something to recover. I don't know, 6... I mean, you play this in the early game, and then hit them with it later, right? But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of aggro in standard, like mono red. Mono red's always frickin' standard, you know, being trying to be as aggressive as possible. Mono black is super aggressive. Does this card do good? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, worst case scenario, you're paying 4 mana to blow up the board with a 3 mana initial investment. It's good. It's good enough. I like it. Limited. Yeah, absolutely. It's a board whip. Standard, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think so. But that being said, there's control decks out there. Just saying. It also says destroy all other permanents. It's a planar cleansing. So, Veteran's Power Blade, 3 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. Equipped soldier for a white, or equipped for 2. Limited, probably, maybe. Probably not. It's kind of expensive. 3 mana for that. Standard, no. Not playable at all. And our last white creature, Yodian Frontliner. So it's a 1 mana, 1/1 soldier. Whenever it attacks, another target creature gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. And you can unearth it for a single white. It's a soldier. It's good enough. Easy peasy. Oh, Puppy's angry. Okay, we just finished with the white card, so we'll move on to the blue right after I let my dog out of my room. Just give me just a moment. Oh yes, I hear you. I hear you. Yes. Big baby. Okay, I'm back and we're gonna start talking about the blue cards. Air Marshal. 1 and a blue for a 2/1 human soldier, and you can pay 3 and give target soldier flying to the end of the turn. Limited, yes. Standard, no. This is a good 2-mana body. Unlimited if you're playing blue-white soldiers, which is the relevant archetype. Giving something flying is relevant. Limited. Standard, probably not. Curate. 1 and a blue for an instant. You can surveil too. There's the return of surveil. It's going to be an evergreen keyword apparently. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, and then you can put any number of them into your graveyard, and the rest in top of your library in any order, and draw a card. Yeah, this is a great draw card for blue, especially in. But we have impulse and standard, so no. In limited, yeah, this card's great. Drawing cards. Draw a card, but you can, like, putting things into your graveyard is pretty relevant. Defabricate. Wow, a lot of people have talked about this card. I'm going to keep it brief. Defabricate. It is a counter target artifact or enchantment spell, and exile it instead of putting it into its graveyard. It gets countered this way, or stifle. I mean, this is going to see a lot of play. I mean, I don't know why people are saying that this won't see play. This is going to be a sideboard all-star. There are a lot of artifacts and a lot of enchantments in Standard right now. And stifling something that your opponent does, if you don't hit any artifacts or enchantments, that's never a feels bad. For the person casting it, of course. Card is good, great in limited, great in Standard. It's going to see main board play. Guaranteed. Desynchronize. 4 and a blue, put target non-land permanent's owner, put it on top of the bottom of their library. Don't play this in limited, don't play it in standard. I don't think it's good enough. It might be barely good enough in limited, but it's not. It's not great. Drafna, founder of Latinam. This card's a weird one. So it's 1 and a blue for a 2/1 human artificer advisor. You can pay 1 and a blue to return target artifact you control to its owner's hand. And you can pay 3 and tap to copy target artifacts while you control. I mean, yes. I mean, you're gonna want to copy your artifact spells. I mean, especially if you're playing like incredibly powerful stuff that isn't legendary. I mean, could you imagine? There's a lot of artifact creatures we haven't gotten to yet. But copying those, I think this card's going to be good. It's a 2-mana 2/1 at worst. In limited, I think this card's good because it's a 2-mana 2/1 at worst. And at best, you're copying a Power Stone token. I mean, that's not at best, but that's a good example of what it could be doing. Copying Power Stones, making ramp. Blue making ramp, the world has turned on its head. It's raining cats and dogs. In standard, we'll have to wait and see. Flagy Archaeologist. A lot of text on this card for what it does. It's a 1 and blue for a 0/3. Whenever it ETBs, it mills 3. You may put a non-creature, non-land card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you don't, you put a +1/+1 counter on. Is this card good enough? Yes, it's card draw. It's essentially. So you put a non-creature, non-land card. The thing is, in limited, probably not. Because you're wanting to play a lot of creatures in limited, so this thing, more often that's going to be a 2-mana 1/4. Not a very feel good. But, you know, if you play this, you wouldn't play it in standard, who am I kidding? You're not going to play that in standard. Flow of Knowledge. 4 and a blue, draw a card for each island you control, then discard 2 cards. I mean, drawing a card for each island you control, I don't think that's going to happen in limited, because you're mostly wanting to play 2 colors in limited. And this will probably draw 3 or 4 at most, and then Disco too. So I don't know. And in standard, no, you're not playing this. There's so many better card draw options in standard. In other formats, yeah, absolutely. In Commander, this is a decent one. I mean, okay, it's a fun one. Forging the Anchor. 2 in blue for a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of artifact cards from among them and put the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of artifact cards. So any number of artifact cards. Is this going to be good unlimited? Maybe. There's a lot of artifacts, and a lot of those artifacts are creatures. Standard. I mean, I still think there's better draw spells. Okay. Let's see, we got the Forging the Anchor. So let me open up the next ones, and I'm going to take a quick break here in a second. After I pull up the next ones. Okay, so we'll start with Hurkyle when I get back, and I will be just a moment. Okay, I'm back. Hello, Skag. I see you in chat. Hello, hello. Put the music back on. Okay, let's get right back to it. We were just talking about the blue cards in the new Brothers War set. I left off in Hurkyle. Hurkyle is a 1/2 blue for a 2/4 human wizard advisor. There's a lot of creature types in this set. At the beginning of your end step, if you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. For each card type. Okay, so there's a lot of text here. If you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. For each card type among non-creature spells that you've cast this turn, you may put a card of that type from your hand, or from among the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you basically play an instant card. You can look at the top 5. If there's an instant in there, you grab that. Sorcery, grab that. Artifact, grab that. Enchantment, grab that. Is this card good in limited? Yes, absolutely. It's potential card draw. And in standard, I don't know. I mean, in limited, it's a 3-mana 2/4 at worst. And standard, it's probably gonna. I mean, it's 4 toughness, so that's kind of relevant. Not gonna die that easy. Um, I I think it has the potential to draw a lot of cards, essentially, but we'll have to wait and see. It's one of those cards where it's hard to make a guess about it when you haven't seen it played. So we'll have to wait and see. Limited, yes. I mean, casting like an artifact and then grabbing an artifact, absolutely. Urkel's Final Meditation. Uh, this is an end of turn effect. So 4 and 3 blue. As long as it's not your turn, the spell costs 3 less to cast. So it's a Cyclonic Rift. They return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands and end of the turn. So here's the thing. It says all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. So it returns yours as well. So you're paying 7 mana to bounce. Oh, Hurl going into mono blue tempo, absolutely. Yeah, you're playing instants and sorceries of the wazoo, and maybe even enchantments. Urkel's Final Meditation. I always feel like I'm saying that wrong. Urkel's Final Meditation. Yeah. So if you're playing this during your opponent's turn, it's 10 mana to return all non-land permanents to their own hand and end the turn. No, this card's not good. I mean, it's it's not even a River's Rebuke. It's literally return all. It returns yours to. You're paying 10 mana to return your stuff to your hand during your opponent's turn. No, this card sucks. This card's awful. I don't like to ever outright say that a card is bad, but this card's not good. This card's terrible. Yeah, return all not. Yeah, no, it's not good. Involuntary cooldown. 3 and a blue. Tap up to 2 target artifacts or creatures and put 2 stun counters on them. Limited, yes. Stunning your opponent's creatures is very good. The fact that it's a sorcery is kind of... But, the fact that it taps down 2 creatures is relevant because it helps you get through. I mean, it's good. Standard, no. Standard, this does not see play. Limited, yes. Limited, this is essentially like soft blue removal. Keeper of the Cadence. 4 and a blue for 2/4. You can pay 3. Put target artifact, instant, or sorcery card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. It's blue dealing with graveyard. I mean, this is going to be somewhat relevant in limited. Granted, the unearthed stuff, and you can just be like, hey, you that really big unearthed creature that you might think about bringing back? I'm just going to slide it to the bottom of your deck. I'm going to tuck it. Is this card good anywhere else? No. 5 mana, 2/5. PU. Terrible. Koilos Rock. 4 and a blue for 3/3 Flash Flyer. Whenever it enters the battlefield, create a tap Firestone token. Yes, this card's great and limited. I mean, it's a 5 mana, 3/3 Flash Flyer that you can play at the end of your opponent's turn, and it also gives you a Power Stone token, and it's a flyer and limited. Oh, nuts. Standard, no. But this card, but like, card's good. Like, Koilos Rock is like one of those cards where it's like they're one of the best feel-good moments when you slam this card down during your opponent's turn, and your opponent's just like, oh my, I guess my opponent doesn't have a 5-drop. Just kidding. Lol. Koilos Rock. But this card's really good. Unlimited. Latinam Adept, 3 and a blue for a 3/3 human wizard. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Latinam Adept. Is this card good enough and limited? It's a 4 mana 3/3 that can potentially get buffed if you manage to get card draw. Sure. Standard? Absolutely not. Talking about Latinam Adept, there's a lot of 4-drops you could play that are probably better. Machine over Matter. 1 and a blue. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control an artifact creature. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Yes. Unlimited? Yes, this card's very awesome. I mean, more often than not, you're just playing this for 2 mana to bounce a non-land permanent to your owner's hand. It says non-land permanent. It's not just creatures. So the fact that this thing can bounce anything, your opponent can play something really big and just be like, no. And there's times that you're playing this for 1 mana. So yeah, it's a good card. Just a good card. It's good and limited. It's probably going to be good in standard. We'll have to see. White Stone's animation. This is 3 and a blue for Enchant Artifact. Whenever it enters the battlefield, draw a card. That's already really good. Enchanter Artifact is a creature with base power, toughness, 4/4 in addition to its other types. This card is great because how often are you creating Power Stone tokens and how often are they sitting around the board? You pay 4 mana to draw a card. You pay 4 mana to get a 4/4 based upon something that you already have. And you're going to be at 4 mana, so you've probably already gotten a Power Stone token. Even if you haven't, you can turn one of your other artifacts that you probably already played during the limited environment into a 4/4. Nobody's complaining about this card being bad. Standard, no, this card doesn't see play. Limited, yes, card's very good. Okay. One with the multiverse. Okay, this is the card that I was talking about earlier, discarding and then returning with the mono white. Actually, let me see what the name of the mono white return spell is, so I can give you guys a proper review here. Where it be? Repair and recharge. So yeah, return a target artifact, enchantment, a planeswalker from your graveyard to the battlefield. That is exactly what you're going to be doing with One with the Multiverse. You're going to be cheating this into play with 5 mana, and you're going to be... So, One with the Multiverse, 6 and 2 blue, enchantment. Look at the top card of your library at any time. It's future sight. You may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. Future sight. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from your hand or the top of your library without playing its mana cost. Diet Omniscience, or Omnipotence. So, this card's good. I mean, in limited, probably not. In standard, yes, you can cheat this. You can cheat this card into play as soon as like turn 4. Like, it's nuts. And being able to just cast things for free, you can get Gate of Phyrexia. I mean, do I even need to tell you how much this synergizes? And there's so many expensive things that you're going to be wanting to play for cheap. So, I'm just saying, this card's nuts in standard. And if it looks hard to cast, it probably isn't. That's the like whole old school, it's the mind over matter type. We were just talking about machine over matter, or mind over machine, or to grind people's gears. Omnipotence, yeah, omnipotence. Yes. I mean, this card's good. It's a crappy version of omnipotence. But it's kind of a good standard. People are gonna be returning. You're gonna see this played in standard more than you would ever like. Okay, let's see what we got next. Oh, one of my whoops. I was trying to save these images. Thank you, thank you. Ooh, wow, we got some good ones to talk about, don't we? I'll just grab all of these. A nice round amount here. And then we'll be down to the... Oh yeah, and then we'll be almost on the blue. Okay, cool. Retrieval Agent, 3 in blue for a 2/5. You can pay 2 to give it +1, -1 till the end of the turn. Typical limited creature that you're probably going to play to just have a nice 4-drop to round out your curve. Standard, no. Scatter Ray, 1 in a blue to counter target artifact or creature spell unless its controller pays 4. You might be surprised how often the opponent will be able to pay 4 in limited, I feel. I know that it's like the idea that your opponent's gonna have a bunch of power stones limited is a very relevant thing, and you should be thinking about that. That being said, this is essentially just an essence scatter that can grab artifacts, so limited, yeah, you'll probably play this. Being able to counter a creature spell in the early game is super relevant. Standard, probably not. It's just essence scatter with an upside. Or with the essence scatter with artifacts slapped on. And most of the artifacts are going to be countering creatures anyway. Excuse me. Okay, Sky Strike Officer. This is the card that everybody's like, whoa, this card's nuts. So it's a 2 in a blue for a 2/3 flyer, which is already good. Whenever it attacks, you create a 1/1 colorless artifact creature token. Already good. And then you can tap 3 untapped soldiers you control to draw a card. Even if you are just attacking with this, you can create 2 soldiers, and then on the third turn of having this, you can tap everything to draw a card. You are not just going to have the soldiers made by this creature on the board. You are playing soldiers when you're playing this deck, because this is, we have seen Cryptbreaker. Tapping 3 creatures is nowhere near as hard as you think it is. Also, especially creatures that are just meaningless as 1/1s, your opponent's not going to be individually blowing up 1/1s. They're going to kill this thing so that you can't tap your 1/1s. And the thing is, this is, in Standard, you can play 4 of this. So your opponent removes 1, and then you just play another one. This is going to go in mono blue, because this card is nuts. You don't even need to play soldiers for this card to be nuts. It's really, really good. I'm just saying. The fact that one of the things that mono blue struggles with is going wide. This card does that in mono blue. You can start making tokens to protect the ground while you're busy attacking in the air with your with all your little flyers. I mean, like, I don't know what needs to be said that hasn't already been said about this card. It's really insane. Limited, yeah. Oh yeah, this card's insane. Probably a game winner in Limited. No, but in a format where we're playing mono blue tempo and there's Delver, I mean, yeah, no, this card's nuts. Splitting the Power Zone, 2 and a blue, as an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice an artifact. Create 2 tapped Power Stone tokens. If the sacrificed artifact was legendary, draw a card. Limited, probably not. Standard, probably not. Stern Lesson, 2 and a blue, instant, draw 2 cards, and then discard a card. So, good loot. And then you create a tapped Power Stone token. I mean, it's a divination where you discard one of the cards and there's an upside, so you get a tapped Power Stone token. Probably very good and limited to draw. And be able to just, and most of the time when you're discarding a card, you probably want to discard that card for Unearth or whatever, for whatever reason. Standard, no. Take Flight, 3 and a blue, enchant creature, it gets +1/+0 and has flying whenever this creature attacks, draw a card. You need a poop rating? Yeah. Just put like a little poop emoji whenever I don't like a card. Let me see. Yeah, I think that 4 mana. I don't know if this will see play in tempo. I don't think so. In limited, yeah, this card's pretty cool. Giving something flying is relevant. The flavor text on this is really sad. Though neither brother cared to admit it, flying the ancient Thopter was their last happy moment together. Let's see here. Oh, Teferi, Temporal Pilgrim. This card is getting very hyped up. So let me break it down a little. It's 3 and a 2 blue for Teferi Planeswalker. It's 4 loyalty. And whenever you draw a card, put a loyalty counter on Teferi Temporal Pilgrim. And then it has 0, draw a card. It has 0, draw a card, and we've seen a lot of walkers that have 0, draw a card, including Jace the Mind Sculptor, and that's, drawing a single card is always good. Actually, I believe Jace has so many abilities, I can't remember all. Drawing a card for 0 is always good. -2, we're drawing a card for 0 with Teferi is a +1, if you think about it, because it puts a loyalty counter whenever you draw a card. -2 is create a 2/2 blue spirit creature token with vigilance. Relevant. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And then the -12, which is probably not anywhere near as hard as we think it is. Target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to their hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control into its own library. I mean, take this back to your hand, remove your entire board. I think the reason that this card is really good is that it's essentially a not crappy version of Mordenkainen, which we saw not too long ago. The 6-man Mordenkainen had potential to be like a really, really good card, but this card is a lot better because it replaces itself, essentially, and you can just keep creating 2/2 blue spirit creature tokens, which those are nuts. Like, so essentially, play this, get one of those, draw a card in your next turn, and then get another one of those. So you're down to 1 loyalty, but it doesn't even matter, because you're probably going to be doing something on your turn that draws cards and gets Teferi back. But the thing is, you're going to be wanting to draw a lot of cards with this card. I mean, in Limited, this card's stupid, because, like, most Planeswalkers in Limited are nuts. But, like, this card's game-winning in Limited, obviously. In Standard, we'll have to wait and see. I think it goes great in a control deck, because you can start, like, while you're drawing cards, you can actually benefit from them. And also, if you ever need to just straight-up draw a card with Teferi, you can do that, instead of making a 2-2. So, card's good. Hands down. Easy peasy. Third Path Savant. It's a 2 and blue for a 2/3, 7 mana, draw 2 cards. 3 mana, 2/3. Is that good enough in Limited? Usually, sometimes. Paying 7 mana to draw 2 cards. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of mana from Power Stones. Probably okay. It's probably, like, just okay in Limited. And Standard, no. Obviously, no. Thopter Mechanic, 1 and a blue for a 2/1. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Thopter Mechanic. Already good. Whenever it dies, rate a 1/1. This card is very, very good and Limited. In Standard, maybe? We'll see. I mean, there's definitely a draw 2 deck going on, and we'll see that theme also with black as well. Urza Power Stone Prodigy. 2 and a blue for a 1/3 with Vigilance. You can pay 1 to tap, draw, and then discard. Whenever you discard 1 or more artifact cards, create tapped Power Stone token. This ability only triggers once each turn. So, creating tapped Power Stones after drawing and discarding in Limited, this card's stupid. In Standard, we'll have to wait and see, but this card's definitely a very good card in Limited. It's, you are milling, and usually the stuff that you're milling, a lot of the time, the stuff that you're milling is going to be, giving you your Power Stones, so we'll see. Urza's command, okay. This is the command that's actually, like, playable, I think. So, 2 and 2 blue for an instant. Choose 2. Creatures you control get -2/-0 until the end of the turn. Create a tapped Power Stone token. Create a Construct, which is a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, and scry 1, draw a card. This card's good. I don't know why people are saying this card isn't good. This card is insane in Standard. I mean, you are usually okay with scrying 1 and drawing a card. Creating a Power Stone token can be relevant to ramp into things later, and you can ramp on your opponent's turn with that Power Stone token. Creating the Construct is really good, especially if you're, like, worst case scenario, you create a Power Stone token, and you get a Construct, which it'll be a 2/2 because you created a Power Stone, and that's an artifact, and the Construct itself is an artifact. This card's really good, and it's instant. It's the command that's in one of the commands that's instant. I think there's only 2 that are instant. This card is good. It will be played a lot in Standard. Hands down. Don't even need to think about it. Also, the art's really cool. Dominic Meyer did an awesome job. Urza's Rebuff. 1 and 2 blue. You can counter a target spell or tap up to 2 target creatures. Will you play Unlimited? Maybe. Mostly because it's flexible. Probably not, though. Standard, no. Weak Stone Subjugation. 1 blue, enchantment aura, enchant artifact or creature. When Weak Stone Subjugation enters the battlefield, you may pay 3. If you do, tap target permanent. Or tap enchanted permanent, and that enchanted permanent is not untapped during its controller's untap step. More often than not, you're playing this for 1 blue, and then it doesn't untap. If you're playing it for 4, I mean, you're not complaining. You're literally just tapping something down. Easy peasy. Also, it looks like he's subjugating Omnath here. Like the OG Omnath, like Locus of Mana Omnath. But, yeah, I think that's funny. Yeah, no, it's relevant, I suppose. I mean, it's going to be good in Limited and Standard, no. Absolutely no. Okay, and we're almost done with the blue card, and there's some spicy ones near the end, so I'm happy to talk about those. Yeah. Oops. There we go. Okay, give me just a moment, and then I'll talk about the rest of the blue cards, and then we'll move on to black. Okay. And we are back. Let's start talking about the rest of the blue, and then we'll move on to black. Wing Commando, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 flying prowess human soldier. Limited? Oh, yes. So you gotta keep in mind prowess is non-creature, so anything you cast is non-creature. Enchantment, artifacts, etc. And standard. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I mean, having a flyer with prowess seems good. And it's a soldier. Zephyr Sentinel. This is a 1 mana, or I'm sorry, 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 flash flyer. There you go, flash flyer. Whenever it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 other target creature you control to its owner's hand. If it was a soldier, put a +1/+1 counter on Zephyr Sentinel. This is a 2 mana, 2/1 flash flyer. Yeah, that last card's very good for Pauper. Zephyr Sentinel, 2 mana, 2/1 flash flyer that has an upside. Yeah, absolutely. I think this card's amazing. I think it's going to be great and limited, and I think it's probably going to see a lot of play in standard, because flash flyers, a lot of blue likes their flash flyers. Arcane Proxy, okay. This card, everybody is, like, making a big deal out of it. Okay. People are saying it's bad, people are saying it's really good. Okay, I think it's somewhere in between. I think I'm going to be the middleman on this. It's a 7 mana, 4/3, with prototypes. You can pay 1 and 2 blue, so you get it for a 2/1. But remember, at ETBs, if you cast an exile target instant or sorcery with mana value less than or equal to Arcane Proxy's power from your graveyard. Copy that card, you may cast a copy without paying its mana cost. It doesn't have flash. So you're mostly going to be playing stuff on your turn with this. But honestly, is it really that bad to play this and get like an impulse or get like a card draw spell? Absolutely not. Playing this for 7 mana to get a 4 mana, you can pay this for 7 mana, play this for 7 mana. You probably already have Power Stone tokens and stuff like that from your Urza's command, and then play another Urza's command. I mean, this card's not bad at all. I think it's going to be great in a control shell, because it's a creature. I mean, and it's a creature that does something relevant, so I think it's a great card. I don't think it's like busted, broken, stupid. You're not going to be doing any Snapcaster Mage stuff with this, but it's a great card. Coastal Bulwark. This is technically a blue card. It's 2 and a 1/3 defender. It's not actually blue in identity. It gets +2/+0 as long as you control an island, so it's a 2 mana that can be a 3/3 defender if you control an island. You can pay 2 to tap and surveil 1. Is this card good in limited? We've seen 2 mana 3/3 defenders in limited before. They're not super relevant on the board. They usually just end up being there, getting attacked over. This thing doesn't have reach or anything like that. So, is this relevant? Potentially, probably not. And it's definitely not seeing any play in standard. The fact that you can surveil 1 with those could be interesting. Combat Courier. Now this is a good card, for limited, I mean. It's a 1 mana 1/1, and you can pay 2 to sack it and draw a card. And you can also pay a 1 blue to unearth it, so you can bring it back and then draw another card. Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be wanting to block this little guy, chump him, draw cards with him, and then bring him back to do more, you know, like hit in for 1 potentially, and then sack him, draw a card. Yeah, oh yeah, Combat Courier is awesome. Depth Charge Colossus. This is a cool one. 9 mana 9/9. Depth Charge Colossus doesn't untap during your untap step, and you can pay 3 to untap Depth Charge Colossus. Or you can pay it for 4 and 2, or play it for 4 and 2 blue for a 6/6 prototype. So you can pay 6 mana for a 6/6, doesn't untap, or you can pay 9 mana for a 9/9 that doesn't untap, but you can pay 3 to untap it. So if you have enough mana to do either of those things, you're not really worrying about it. Good card. Unlimited, I think. It's definitely good enough. I mean, most of the time you're holding this thing back to block. But attacking with it can be devastating. Hulking Metamorph. Man, is the art on this card very cool. It's a 9 mana 7/7, and you can prototype it for 2 and 2 blue to get a 3/3. It can enter the battlefield as a copy of an artifact or creature you control. It says you control, so it's iffy. Except it's an artifact creature in addition to its other types. And its power and toughness are equal to Hulking Metamorph's power and toughness. I mean, it doesn't... See, the thing is, clones are always disappointing when it can only target your stuff, but paying 9 mana for a 7/7 that clones something that you have on your board and limited is kind of poopy. But it also can be a copy of an artifact, so I don't know how to feel about this. I mean, 4 mana 3/3 getting a clone that copies an artifact or a creature could be good and limited, because it could just be good enough, because 4 mana 3/3 have to do something. If you target something that's relevant with it, I mean, you could target a Power Stone and make a 4 mana 3/3 tap, add mana, but like, that's worst case, I would imagine. But I think this is okay in limited. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's okay. Spotterthopter! Also, that card's not playable in standard. Spotterthopter, 8 mana for 4/5 flyer. Whenever it ETBs, you scry X, where X is its power. And you can pay 3 and a blue for 2/3 instead, and would let you scry 2. Is it playable in limited? Yes. Is it playable in standard? No. Moving on. I mean, and you're gonna, as we've seen, there's a lot of better 4 mana blue, 4 mana drops than this, so, Surge Engine 2. Okay, people are really happy about this guy. So 2 and 2 mana for a 3/2 with Defender, and it's a construct. You can pay 1 blue. Surge Engine loses Defender, and gains this creature can't be blocked. So you're essentially paying 3 mana for a 3/2 that can't be blocked. Okay. And then you can pay 3 to make it become blue and have base power and toughness 5/4. And you can only activate this if it doesn't have Defender. Okay. And then you get to the last stage, you can pay 6 to draw 3 cards, but you can only activate this if it's blue, and you can only activate it once. So once you activate this, you can never activate it again. But here's the thing. We're not really worrying about getting to the 6 mana portion where we're drawing cards off of it. That's just icing on the cake. The fact that this is a 2 mana 3/2 that you can pay 1 blue to lose Defender and gain it can be blocked, yeah, that's super, super good and limited. You're not going to ever be sad to have this card in limited. Standard. A lot of blue tempo might like this. I mean, it's a little, I don't want to say slow, because it's really not. Because you're essentially playing 2 mana 3/2 that doesn't really do anything the first turn it's played, and then next turn you can do it, which is kind of like Delver. I mean, Delver is, you play a 1 mana 1/1 that doesn't really do anything besides chump until you eventually flip an instant or sorcery. So is this really that different? I mean, it's more consistent. You're gonna always have mana. You're not always gonna have an instant or sorcery on the top of your library. The fact that it's 2 mana, though, makes it a different card. So, is this card good? Yes. Is there a lot of artifact removal in standard? Absolutely. Is there a lot of cheap creature removal in standard? Absolutely. This dies to a lot of removal. This dies to one of the more relevant removal pieces in standard right now, which is Cut Down. But I think this card's amazing. I mean, and it'll eventually be able to dodge Cut Down by paying 3, so this card's awesome. I love it. Cool card. I always love these level up cards. Temporal Anchor. Mana people shit on this card. So it's 3 and 3 blue. So 6 mana total for a legendary artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 2. Whenever you choose to put 1 or more cards to the bottom of your library while scrying, exile that many cards from the bottom of your library. During your turn, you may play cards exile with the Temporal Anchor. This card's not bad. It's not bad by any stretch. It's not super insanely busted, but during your turns, when you're putting 2 cards at the bottom of your library and you essentially draw 3 cards, it's really good. You're not really playing a lot of counterspells with this card. Of course, you're not doing a lot of, like, manipulation and stuff like that. You're drawing a lot of your goodies and your, like, pieces, like the Meek Stone and Might Stone. The Weak Stone and Might Stone that we'll be seeing later. This card's good. It's not insane, but it's good. Limited, pretty slow. But that being said, limited often forgives you for being slow. Standard, not so much. I think this card sees play in a control shell in standard where you're reanimating artifacts in white-blue, and we've talked about which artifacts we will be reanimating, and this one will be one of them. Teresian Mindbreaker. So 7 mana, 6/4. Whenever it attacks, defending player mills half of their library rounded up. And then you can unearth it for 1 and 3 blue. So you can pay 4 mana to bring it back as a 6/4 haste and mill your opponent's library. Milling your opponent's library often benefits them in this standard. I mean, is mill going to be a thing because of this card? No, absolutely not. Probably in other formats. In limited, this card is definitely really good because it has the potential of milling your opponent's bombs. So, like, you're probably going to be playing this for Unearth. You probably discarded it earlier in the game so you can unearth it and have it attack. But yeah, I don't know. This card's a hard one to like put a pin in, but it's gonna be good in limited. Standard, probably not. Mills hasn't been relevant in standard for a long time. There's not a lot of mill pieces that are super relevant, so probably not. Limited, hell yeah, you play this card. Standard, no, not at all. All right, on to the black cards. Boo, boo, boo. Boo, 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 boo. We are opening up a lot of cards. Okay. Ashnod Flesh Mechanist. It is a 1 black for a 1/1 with Death Touch. It's a human artificer. It's Ashnod. Whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, create a tapped Power Stone token. Pay 5, exile a creature card from your graveyard, create a tapped 3/3 colorless zombie artifact creature token. Most of the time, when you're playing a cheap creature like this, what's unfortunate about it is you draw it in late game, and it's like, you don't like it. But this thing allows you to do things in the late game, which makes it an insanely good card for limited. You're playing this in the early game as a 1-mana 1/1 with Death Touch. Good. That's good enough. Playing it in the late game and attacking with it and sacrificing other creatures to create Power Stone tokens and eventually making enough mana to exile creature cards from your graveyard. Yeah, it's good enough. It's a good card in limited, very good card in limited. In standard, we'll have to wait and see. In standard, I've often found I've been playing a lot of mono black, and I've found that Graveyard Trespasser, I really like to target my own creatures with it because my opponent, typically by the time I get over to them, I've probably just eaten all the creatures out of the graveyard and exiled them already. Having Ashnod compete with that is an iffy one, but having multiple effects that interact with the graveyard is pretty nice. Because there's a lot of black creatures that, if you're running more than one copy of Ashnod, Ashnod could exile herself from the graveyard if you don't need it. So, yeah, it's a good card, very good card. Standard, we'll have to wait and see. Limited, oh yeah, this card's very good. Ashnod's Intervention, 1 and a black. I'm sorry, just a single black, my bad. Until the end of the turn, creature gains +2/+0 whenever this creature dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. Yeah, this card is... It's a combat trick, and it's good, and it says exile too. So here's the thing. Ashnod's Intervention can hit something that has Unearth on it and bring it back to its owner's hand, so... It'll probably be a good combat trick, or a good enough combat trick, and limited and standard, absolutely not. Battlefield Butcher, 3 and a black for a 1/4 human soldier. 5 and tap, each opponent loses 2 life. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each creature card in your graveyard. Limited, yes, this is a good card. Being able to just ping your opponent for 2 life over and over again every turn, and the fact that this thing has 4 toughness, it's pretty hard to get rid of. So, yeah, good card in limited. Standard, no. Carrion Locust, 2 and a black for a 2/1 flyer, enters the battlefield, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. If it was a creature card that a player loses 1 life. 3 mana for 2/1 flyer and black is never something to sneeze at, and it has an upside, so... The idea of getting rid of something in your opponent's graveyard, which is going to be an unearthed creature, is, yeah, that's a nice little touch. So it's a good card in limited, not standard. Better cards in standard that do the same exact thing. Corrupt. Corrupt is a card that we haven't seen in a long time in standard. It's 5 and a black. A sorcery. It deals damage to any number, deals damage to any target equal to the number of swamps you control, and you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. So... The thing is with this card is Corrupt never really saw play when it was around. Um, will it see play unlimited? Probably not, because you're not running enough swamps. You're probably going to be playing multicolor, so you're not running enough swamps to be like, hey, I'm gonna just play Corrupt and casually deal probably six damage. In Standard, you're not going to be doing that. In Standard, we have other things that you would rather be doing, like Invoke Despair, so this card's not good enough. Anyway. Diabolic Intent. 1 in the black, as an additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle. Gix pierces disciples' minds and savor their experiences he took in their knowledge. So seeing the Diabolic Intent back in Standard is interesting. The big thing with this card being that in Standard, you're probably going to be sacking your small creatures to find something big, like Sheoldred, or Invoke Despair. So yes, this card's very relevant. Now, in Limited, maybe less so, but you can always fish up your bomb with this card, but the thing is, this card's also taking a slot for you to fish up your bomb, so, I don't know, I think it's good enough. You're gonna be sacking a lot of tiny things with this. Like I said, good enough. Standard, oh yeah, this card's gonna see play. Oh yeah. Disciples of Gix, 4 mana and 2 black for 4/4s for Phyrexian Human. Whenever it ends the battlefield, search your library for up to 3 artifact cards, put them in your graveyard, and then shuffle. Doing this in Limited is pretty great. So you put your Unearth cards in there in the late game to be really good. Also, 6 mana 4/4 is not horrible. There's a lot of giant cards, but, I mean, you're never going to complain about a 6 mana 4/4. And then you can grab all of your Unearthed cards and throw them in the yard and then play them. Yeah, that's good enough. Standard no. Goes without saying, Standard no. Disfigure. There's a lot of cards that this hits. So, Disfigure in Limited, yes, this card is definitely something you play. Disfigure in Standard. Are there enough things to target that have 3 toughness? Or 2 toughness, or less? Surprisingly, I don't think so. There's a lot of things that you would want to kill with this figure have 3 toughness or more. Will it be played? Yes. Will it have an effect on the meta? I don't think so. There's so many better. We have cut down still, so and cut down is usually going to kill things that this figure can't. Will this figure eventually see play when cut down leaves? I don't recall if they're close enough in the Standard thing to where they're just going to be rotated out together. I don't think this figure will ever see proper play in Standard. Limited, yes, when you use this card, it's very good spot removal. Dreams of Steel and Oil. 1 black. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an artifact or creature card from it. Then choose an artifact or creature card from their graveyard, and you exile both of them. So, yeah, this is very good. This is very good. Just like, hey, I'm going to look at your hand, take a creature artifact card, and then get rid of it, and then I can get rid of something from your graveyard. There's a lot of graveyard hate in this set, which is relevant. I think this card will see a play. It'll probably be sideboarded for the most part, but I think there will be some people that run this on the main board. Is it good enough in Limited? Probably not. I mean, disrupting what your opponent's doing in Limited, you're not really knowing what your opponent is doing in Limited. They're just playing tempo. You can't really predict what they're doing in Standard. Yes, this card will see play. Absolutely. Art's very cool, too. Jeremy Wilson did a very cool design here with Mishra. Emergency Weld, 1 in a black, sorcery, return target artifact or creature card from your graveyard to your hand, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. Limited, yes, oh my god, this card's awesome. Because, like, the idea of being able to return something from your graveyard to your hand and also just do something on the board while you're doing that, even if it's just making a 1/1. I mean, a 1/1 to be sacked to something, a 1/1 to be chomped to something, yeah, oh yeah, this card's awesome and Limited. Standard, maybe, probably not. Definitely not. Making a 1/1 though, when returning something, when doing something else relevant. Fateful Handoff. 3 and a black, sorcery. Draw cards equal to the mana value of target artifact or creature you control. An opponent gains control of that permanent. No. This is a Gifts Ungiven. Not Gifts Ungiven. It's a, Harmless Offering, and I don't think it's good enough. I don't know. It won't see play in Standard because there's not really a lot of things in Standard you want to give to your opponent to like screw them over. In other formats, yes, absolutely. In Limited, I mean, no, absolutely not. Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor, 1 and 2 black for a Phyrexian Praetor. He is a 3/3. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, draw a card. So, and then you can pay 4 and 3 black to discard X cards and exile the top X cards of your opponent's library, and you may play lands and cast spells from among them, exiled this way without paying your mana cost. So, this card's really good and limited. The idea of being able to swing in and pay a life and draw a card? Yeah, absolutely. In Standard, will this card see play? That's iffy. There's a lot of the 3-drop slot is sort of taken up in Standard with black, with Liliana and Graveyard Trespasser, so this isn't really something that you're usually going to want to play. Though I think people will try to experiment and like maybe pop out a Lily or two, or maybe even a Graveyard Trespasser to pop in a Gix to see how that's working and play more of a mid-range style black deck, which mid-range black is pretty much a thing right now. So yeah, I think this card's good. Standard, limited, we'll have to, and limited, yeah, it's gonna be good. I mean, it's a 3-mana 3/3 that has a great upside, yeah, it's awesome. Gix's Caress, 2 in black. Opponent reveals their hand, choose an online card from it, the player discards that card, okay. Creates that Power Stone token, yeah, this will probably see play unlimited. Being able to ramp a little bit is nice, and having an opponent discard a non-land card, so anything that isn't a land, that's great. Hey, Alec, 8 months, yeah, that's crazy. Thank you for the resub, brother, I appreciate you. We're just talking about the set here. Yeah, Gix's Caress won't see playing Standard, but limited, yes. Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate the resub. Thank you. Gix's Command is 3 and 2 black, sorcery. You choose 2. So like I was saying about the commands, the fact that this one isn't an instant probably makes it unplayable, which is disappointing. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 creature. It gains lifelink till the end of the turn. Destroy each creature with power 2 or less. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, or each opponent sacrifices a creature with the highest power among creatures they control. Do you want to pay 5 mana to potentially kill everything with power 2 or less? There's not going to be a lot of things on the board that are power 2 or less. I mean, I'm sure you could, like, screw around with Urza's Command and, like, make everything -2 power. I think this card's probably one of the worst. Oh yeah, I gathered that magic, dude. Thank you. I think this is one of the worst commands. I think Halo's command's actually better. The fact that it says return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand instead of like return something from the graveyard to the battlefield or anything. It's like ugh. But each one is sacrificing a creature at the highest power among creatures they control. That could be relevant, but 5 mana. Oof, I don't know. I think this will be okay in limited. But in Standard, oh, no, absolutely not. Gixian Infiltrator, 1 and a black for a 2/1. Whenever you sacrifice another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Gixian Infiltrator. Yeah, I mean, sure. Sacrificing other permanents is something that you're going to be doing. Given what's going on in this set, and, you know, like, I mean, sacrifice another permanent. Could you imagine playing this with treasure tokens in Standard, you know, with Capenna still being around, obviously, because it's not that old of a set. Being able to crack a treasure token and put a +1/+1 counter on this thing over and over again, I think this is a sleeper really good card. Dare I say a Phyrexian sleeper, really good card. And limited, we'll see. I don't think there's a whole lot of sacrifice going on. Ashnod's obviously sacking, and there's a lot of, like, things here and there, but I think this card will see a surprising amount of Standard play, because the idea of just being able to crack... Yeah, no, I think it'll be very good. I think there's a treasure deck waiting for this. Gixian Puppeteer, 3 and a black for a 4/3. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Okay, here's the draw 2 thing we were talking about. When Gixian Puppeteer dies, return another target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. 4 mana, 4/3, when you draw your second card. So drawing a second card can be relevant. This is kind of... I mean, the thing that's difficult about this card is it's competing with Sheoldred, and when it dies, returning another target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you can grab back one of your 3 drops, like you can get back Gix, you can get back Cemetery Trespasser, and that's just mono black. So you can think of a lot of other cards you can grab back. Is this card good enough? Is it better than Sheoldred? I don't think so. Because you're not going to be consistently drawing 2 cards every single turn, right? Sheoldred, you literally just have the effects happen because the game is going. I don't know. This card's not bad, but I don't think I'll see play over Sheoldred. Sheoldred's a easy 2 or 3 of. Gixian Skullflayer, 2 and a black for Phyrexian Human Assassin. It's a 2/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 3 or more creature cards in your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on Gixian Skullflayer. Also, that last card, yes, very playable in limited. Standard, no. This card, playable in limited, because it's a 3 mana 2/3, and there's a chance that it gets bigger. Standard, no. Let's see, Gixian Skullflayer was this card. Right? Okay. Oh yeah, so 1 mana Wrath, my favorite. I don't think I closed Gixian Skullflayer. No, I did not. Okay. Gurgling Anoint is a good one. We are not too far from being done with black. I'll just open up the rest of the black cards so I don't have to worry about doing this again. Okay. Gnawing Vermin. Black, a 1/1, enters battlefield, target player mills 2 cards. Whenever Gnawing Vermin dies, target creature you control gets -1/-1 until the end of the turn. This is definitely playable in limited, and it might be playable in standard. The idea of milling 2 cards... I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that'll be of like benefit to anybody, but the idea that something gets -1/-1, I don't know. I don't think this card will be playable in standard. Go for the Throat. Okay, well, Go for the Throat is usually like one of the go-to like removal spells because you're not going to be playing against a lot of non-artifact creatures. But here's the thing. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of artifact creatures in standard. So this card is going to be one of those power word kill situations where there's a surprising amount of things that this cannot hit. On the other hand, Go for the Throat can hit a lot of things, including the Praetors, or Sheoldred, and almost everything in the current mono black deck. The fact of the matter is there might be people that start running more artifact creatures to go around Go for the Throat, but there's also Infernal Grasp, so we'll see. I'm not sure about this card. I feel like with Phyrexia coming up, we're going to see a lot more artifact cards too, so this isn't going to be relevant for a while, I feel. But when it is relevant, and it will be very relevant. In limited, you probably have to think really hard about playing that. I wouldn't. It's removal, but, I mean, you might run one of it if you get it. Gruesome Realization, 1 and 2 black. It's a sorcery. Choose one. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life, or creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 to the end of the turn. Mishra was gone. All that remained was a machine wearing his face. Here's the thing. I feel like this card is very good. And limited, yes, definitely. And standard, there's a chance it might see some play, because getting -1/-1 is pretty relevant. Also drawing the 2 cards and losing 2 life. Not bad. It's a more expensive sign-in, bud, but, nobody's complaining. In limited, yes, you can play this card. There's a lot of 1/1s that need to be killed. 1/1 construct soldier creature tokens. Yeah, they need to die. Creatures your opponents control getting -1/-1 to the end of the turn. Yeah. Drawing 2 cards in limited, yes. So, yeah, good card. Good card all around. Standard, probably not. But it's still good. Gurgling Anointer. 2 and a black for Phyrexian Horror. It's a 1/3 flyer. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Anointer, so there's that second draw 2 theme. Whenever it dies, return another target creature card with mana value less than or equal to Gurgling Anointer's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yes, this card is going to be cool and limited. More often than not, it's going to be a 3 mana 1/3 flyer that might get a counter on it. And you can return a 1-drop, so not bad. In Standard, this card has the potential of being huge, but the thing is, it's just another 3-drop competing with already a really competitive 3-drop slot, so we'll just have to wait and see. I think it's a good card, it has a lot of potential, but might not see play. Hostile Negotiations, 3 and a black for an instant. Exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face-down pile, and then exile the top 3 of your cards of your library in another face-down pile. Look at the cards in each pile, then turn a pile of your choice face up. An opponent chooses one of those piles, put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. You're paying 4 mana and 3 life to potentially draw 3 cards. Yeah, absolutely. It's a really great card, and the fact that you're drawing 3, essentially, instead of 2, which would be, not gifts a given, but, you know the card I'm talking about. This is just a black version of that, and it's a great card. It'll see play unlimited, it'll see play in standard. Killzone Acrobat, 2 and a black for a 3/2. Whenever it attacks me, sacrifice another creature. If you do, it gains flying. I mean, 3 mana 3/2 is already good enough and limited. Being able to have an upside if you work it a little bit, yeah, that's great. Standard, no. Misery Shadow. This card's nuts and limited. It's 1 and a black for a 2/2 creature shade. Whenever a creature an opponent controls would die, exile instead. There is so much graveyard hate in this set. I don't know if you've noticed. And you can pay 1 generic, it doesn't matter, one of any color of mana. Misery Shadow gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. Keep in mind you can use Power Stones to, you know, off this. And in limited, it's nuts. In standard, I think it'll replace some of the 2-drops. I think it's that good. I think it will replace some of the 2-drops in tempo and aggro black, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it's a fantastically good card. Moment of Defiance, 2 and a black. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains lifelink until the end of the turn. Draw a card. This card would be terrible. A terrible like combat trick if it weren't for the fact it drew a card. Even then, it's sort of like 3 mana to do that. Yeah, I definitely see this bringing games back from the brink. Absolutely. Standard, no, obviously. This is a limited card, and we're looking at it purely from a limited standpoint. +2/+1 lifelink, yes, like I said, that can essentially just bring something back bring a game back from the dead. And that's the way I would look at it. So, yeah, it's okay. If you don't have any better combat tricks, that would be what I recommend. Let's see. Okay, no one left behind. Okay, so 4 and a black. This spell costs 3 less if it targets a creature card with mana value 3 or less, so this will cost 2 mana to return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Are you going to be targeting something with mana value 3 or less? That's... I mean, yeah, this is going to be good and limited, because you're going to be paying any amount of mana to get anything back. It's going to see play unlimited. Standard, we'll have to wait and see. Probably not. It's 5 mana. You're usually paying 5 mana to return something. You would want to return something other than a creature, I think. Overwhelming Remorse, 4 and a black. This creature, I'm sorry, this spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. Exile target creature, or Planeswalker. Absolutely, this card's awesome. This is definitely going to be one of those cards that, it's going to see a lot of play in limited. Standard, I think it actually might see play in standard too, because there's a lot of like things going on in the graveyard. But that being said, there's so much graveyard hate now. It's like, man, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but the card's very good and limited. Painful Quandary. I can just tell you immediately this card is not going to see any play in Standard. It's 3 and 2 black. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. In limited, this card's going to be very good. It's going to be a game-winning card, essentially, if it gets to last and you have a stable enough board. In other cases, I'm not so sure. I don't think this card's that amazing. Let's see. Yeah, it's standard. No, it's not gonna standard play. You're gonna be wanting to play Invoke Despair with your turn in black. Like I said, limited. This card's very good. If it sticks, it sticks, and it probably will. Power Stone Fracture 1 in a black as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, destroy target creature or planeswalker. You can sacrifice an artifact or creature. You can sacrifice a Power Stone to kill something. It's good removal limited. Standard, probably not. Ravenous Gigamole. This reminds me of like some old school Magic art. So 3 in a black for a 2/3 mole horror. Whenever Ravenous Gigamole enters the battlefield, mill 3, you may put a creature card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter. It's a draw spell that draws a creature. And at worst, if it doesn't draw a creature becomes a 4 mana 3/4. Pretty alright and limited. Standard, no. Thran Vigil. This is 1 and a black. For whenever 1 or more artifact and or creature cards leave your graveyard during your turn, put +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So, it's your graveyard during your turn. So, what I was talking about earlier, exiling stuff with Graveyard Trespasser, if there's like some sort of Unburial Rights effect in the future, I think this card's going to be nuts. But the only one I can really think of being relevant is Graveyard Trespasser, getting rid of creatures that you have in your graveyard that you'll never get back. Is putting a +1/+1 counter for 2 mana, is that going to be worth it? Probably not. Deck's already good enough by itself. Foxo Demon. 1 in a black for a 2/2. Also, that card is probably not good unlimited either. 3 in tap. Sacrifice another creature or artifact to draw a card. And it's a 2/2. It's a 2 mana 2/2 that you can pay 3 to sack another creature or artifact. Power Stone counts. Draw a card. Is this good enough and limited? Absolutely, it's awesome. It's a 2 mana 2/2. I mean, honestly, 2 mana 2/2, that's great. If it does something more, that's even better. Sacking a Power Stone to draw a card, and you can pay with the Power Stone mana to draw the card, so you can essentially pay 2 mana to sack a Power Stone to draw a card. Yeah, this card's good. Limited, yes. Standard, no. Standard, definitely not. Trenchstalker, 4 in black for a 4/5. As long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, it has Death Touch and Lifelink. There's the draw 2. Is it going to be good and limited? It's a 5 mana 4/5, yes. Standard, no. I'm just going to start being a little bit more brief with these cards, because some of them aren't worth talking about. Ashnod's Harvester, 2 and a 3/1. 2 mana for a 3/1. Whenever it attacks, exile target card from a graveyard. And you can unearth it for 1 in a black. Like I said, there are better things that you can exile cards from graveyards with, but I feel like this will see play in Standard. Limited, yeah, you're gonna play this card. It's 2 mana 3/1. It's a good card, and you can unearth it and bring it back. So. Clay Revenant, 1 mana and a 1/2. Enters the battlefield tapped. 2 in a black. Return it from your graveyard to your hand. No, you don't want to pay 4 mana to return something. Even in limited, I think this card is bad. In standard, this card is bad. There are cards that do this, but better. The idea of being able to sack something and return it, though, but paying 4 mana to do that, you don't want to do that. Dredging Claw, 2, an equipment. Equip creatures +1/+1 menace. Whenever it enters the battlefield from your graveyard, you may attach, or whenever a creature enters the battlefield from your graveyard, you may attach Dredging Claw to it. So this is something you have on the field, and you return something from your graveyard to the battlefield. That might be something you'll be doing in limited. And it gets +1/+1 as menace. Yeah, I think that's good enough. I mean, that being said, this card also kind of feels like a trap. That being said, you can slap it on creatures that are actually, not being returned from the graveyard to the battlefield, so could be relevant. I think it'll be alright in limited. I think it'll be horrible in standard and multiplayer. That being said, having Dredging Claw and then playing Tenacious Underdog from your graveyard, I don't know. We'll see. Probably not. Scoring Warplow, 6 mana for a 5/4 Death Touch, and then you can prototype it to be a 1 and a black for a 1/1 with Death Touch. It's good enough in limited, not good in standard. Phyrexian Flash Quarter, this is one that's really good. 7 mana, 7/5 for a Menace lifelink, and it has Ward Pay Life equal to its power. Even at a 3 mana, I think paying 3 mana with something with Menace and lifelink and having that type of ward cost, I think this is a competitive 3-drop that can probably knock out some other 3-drops in standard. And limited, this card's insane. If you're not playing this card, you are not playing correctly. It's just such an amazingly good card. Okay. Razor Lash Transmogrant. This will be 2 and a 3/1. It can't block. You can pay 6 to return it from the graveyard to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, and this ability costs 4 less to activate if an opponent controls 4 or more non-basic lands. Are we going to see a lot of non-basic lands? Probably. I mean, Mishra's Foundry alone is probably going to be played, and if they have multiple copies of that, that already answers like 2 or 3. And your opponent's probably going to be playing duels, so is this card a side? I think this card is more sideboardable than it is like in the main deck, but I think it's good enough. In limited, I mean, you can have for a 3/1, and you can return it for 6 mana at worst. Maybe. I think it's better in standard as a sideboard card. That's my opinion. Easy peasy. All these are my opinion, obviously. Scrapwork Rager, 4 mana for a 2/2. Whenever it enters the battlefield, draw a card and lose 1 life. I mean, yeah, you draw and lose 1 life is not a bad effect, and then you can unearth it to do it again. I mean, yeah, it's good enough in limited standard now. Transmogrant Altar, 3, and you can 3 for an artifact. You can pay a black and sack a creature to add 3 colorless mana. And then you can pay 2 and tap and sack a creature and create a 3/3 colorless zombie artifact creature token activate only as a sorcery. Obviously, everybody's been saying the same exact thing about this card. The fact that it taps and it's an altar makes it incredibly weak. Also not very flavorful. Yeah, I'm not so sure. It might see play. Probably not. And limited maybe, but ramping, you have to have something to ramp into, right? Making the zombies could be relevant with tiny tokens. Transmogrant's Crown, 2, and for an artifact equipment, whenever it enters the battlefield, equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw a card. This is a weaker Skull Clamp. It'll absolutely see play in limited. It'll absolutely see play in standard. You can slap this onto an underdog for 1 black and then draw another card. Obviously, this card's going to see play. Even if it's not very great. Tell you what, for the rest of the set, I think what I'm going to do is just pick out the rares and uncommons, so we can just look at those. Let's see here. Yeah, let me set it to where it's only looking at the Brothers War uncommons and rares, because there's not really going to be a lot of you know what, I can just, never mind. I'll just skim through the cards that I don't think are going to be that great. This is just getting to be a long stream, and I really don't have a lot of viewership for it, so, let's see. We can talk about cards in red that I think will be relevant. Because looking at a card from, like, limited standpoint, oh yeah, it's gonna be, like, good. Actually, instead of just, like, cracking open all of these, I just briefly talk about each of them. So, Arms Race, it's 4 mana, you can pay 4 mana to put an artifact from your hand onto the battlefield, gains haste. You're not going to be wanting to do that limited, and you're not going to be wanting to do that standard. It's very expensive for what it is. If you can somehow manage to get it to stick and then keep going with it, I guess it could be good enough, but even then, I don't think so. Bitter Reunion, this is battlefield. You may discard a card if you do draw 2 cards. Sure, good enough, and it's an enchantment, and you can sacrifice some creatures you control and haste in the end of turn. Absolutely good card. It's going to be good in limited, it's going to be good in standard. Brotherhood's End. It is a Sweltering Suns. Is that what the card's called? Yeah. It's a Anger of the Gods. Deal 3 to each creature in each planeswalker. Destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 unless you choose one or the other. I think the second line of text makes this card super relevant, and it's going to be played on a lot of different formats for that reason, and you bet your ass it's going to be played in standard and in limited, so. Conscripted Infantry is a 3-mana 3/1. Whenever it dies, create a 1/1. It's good enough in limited. It's not going to be played in standard. Draconic Destiny, 1 and 2 red. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, has flying and haste, and you can pay 1 to Shivan Dragon, or for fire breathing, essentially. So you just give it +1/+0. And it's also a dragon. Whenever an enchanted creature dies, you return Draconic Destiny to its owner's hand. Is this card going to be played in limited? Hell yes, it's a very good card. Is it going to be played in standard? We'll have to wait and see. I think there's better things that Rick could be doing, but the fact that they have a recurring enchantment that may give something flying, haste, +1/+1, and then fire breathing, yeah, I think it's good. I think I'll probably see playing standard. Even if it's not that great. Dwarven Forge Chanter, 1 and a red for a 1/3 Dwarf Wizard. Ward, pay 2 life. That's pretty good. And it has prowess. Good and limited. Standard? Maybe. Probably not. Excavation Explosion, 2 and a red for a sorcery. It deals 3 damage to any target. Create a tapped Power Stone token. Yes, good and limited. Probably not in standard. You do really want to be playing those kinds of spells for a sorcery. Full of Crude. This is our land removal that is not very good. 4 and 2 red, choose target opponent, destroy target land that player controls, deals 3 damage to that player and 1 damage to each creature they control. Horrible card. It's hardly playable in limited. I don't think it's playable at all in limited. And standard, no. Pelagi, yeah, I guess. Pelagi Chain Dancer, 3 and a red for 2/4. You can pay 2 to give it double check until the end of the turn. It's okay in limited, it's not playable in standard. Felden, Renam, Excavator, 1 and a red for a 2/2 haste, and it cannot block. I never expected Felden to be an aggro card. This card is very aggressive whenever it's dealt damage. Exile that many cards from the top of your library. You can choose one of them. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. This card's very good. In limited though, and you're swinging in, and your opponent has the bright idea to block your entire board, and you're like essentially milling 20 cards. Bad idea. Limit standard. This card's very good. It's a 2-mana 2/2 haster, which is usually just good enough for red aggro, and it has an upside where it essentially lets you draw a card, quote unquote. Very good. Giant Cinder Maw, 2 and red for a 4/3 trample. Players can't gain life. 3 mana for a 4/3 trampler, and limited is very good. The fact that players can't gain life is very good because there's quite a few effects that have like offhanded life gain. Stopping, that's great. And it might see some play in standard. It's not super aggressive. It just stops people from gaining life, so we'll see. Goblin Blast Runner, 1 red and for a 1/2. It's +2/+0 and has menace as long as you sacrifice a permanent this turn. This card's definitely going to see play in a lot of other formats other than standard and limited, from the idea of cracking lands to grab other things. Honestly, playing Goblin Blast Runner in a deck where you're playing the lands from, or like fetch, like the weak Evolving Wilds from Capenna, I think this card's very good. It's essentially a 1-mana 3/2 with menace. So, yeah, can't really complain. As long as you can consistently do that every turn. It's a very good card. So I think it'll definitely suit limited play. There's not a whole lot of, like I said, sacking, I'm not so sure. But the standard play, I think it will see standard play. I think it has a place in like a treasure-centric deck. Just like another card we were talking about. Orange Stonestaker, 1 and a red for a 2/2 with menace, and it creates a Power Stone, a tapped Power Stone, well I just stuttered there, a tapped Power Stone token when it ETBs. 2 mana 2/2, menace, good. Upside as it creates a tapped Power Stone token and ramps, even better. Very playable and limited, probably playable in standard, surprisingly, probably very playable in standard. Mechanized Warfare, 1/2 red for an enchantment. If a red or artifact source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent that opponent controls, it deals that much damage +1 instead. It's aggressive. is aggressive enough, probably. Um, Dealing 3 damage with your shock spells is relevant. Do you really want to pay 3 mana to do that? There's a chance. It also says artifact or red source, so I'm just saying, you can create colorless artifact soldier creature tokens, and those things will deal 2 damage instead of 1. Mishra, Excavation Prodigy, which makes this card playable in Standard. I think we'll see friends play in Standard and Limited. We'll see. I'm not sure. If you have a lot of artifacts and red things constantly doing damage, like Mishra's Onslaught down here, yes, absolutely. Mishra, Excavation Prodigy, 2 and a red for a 2-1 with haste. You can pay 1 to discard a card, draw a card like his brother. Whenever you discard 1 or more artifact cards, add 2 red. This ability triggers only once each turn. Red ramp. Red ramp. This card is good. I like the idea of being able to play this in mono red aggro, maybe in Standard. I think 3 mana for a 2-1 haster is a little bit expensive. In Limited, this card's awesome. It'd be the idea of being able to discard an artifact card and add 2 red and like ramp into something really big and nasty. Oh yeah, it's awesome. Mishra's Command, sorcery, X on a red. Choose target player. They may discard up to X cards. They may draw a card for each card discarded this way. Which that effect alone is really good. This spell deals X damage to target creature. The spell deals X damage to target planeswalker, or target creature gets +X/+0 and gain haste at the end of the turn. This command's really good. So you can essentially pay 1 red to literally just get a creature haste. That's awesome. And you can pay 2 red to do, like, you can discard a card and draw a card, pay, like, do a cheap loot. You can pay 3 red to do Faithless Looting. Like a weird Faithless Looting, so discarding that many cards and then drawing that many cards. But dealing damage, I see this being played to deal damage to a target creature in Standard, and then probably give something haste or draw cards. And then, in Standard, I could also see you literally just paying to kill a creature and kill a Planeswalker. It's relevant. In Limited, I feel like this card's good enough. Being able to draw cards and then like kill something in the process of drawing said cards, Mishra's Command's very good. Wish it was an instant, though, I gotta say. I feel like it wouldn't have been too busted if it was... Actually, it might have been really busted if it was an instant, now that I think about it. But Limited, very much, yes. Standard, we'll have to wait and see. I think it's good enough. Very flexible. Worst case scenario with Mishra's Command, you're paying 1 red to get something haste. Never something you sneeze at. Mishra's Domination, 1 and a red, enchant creature. As long as you control enchanted creature, it gets +2/+2, otherwise it can't block. Very good little enchantment type combat trick. 2 mana, get something +2/+2 is awesome. I think it's good enough in Limited. Enchanting something to make it unable to block can be relevant and can finish games. Let's see. Obviously playable in Limited, not playable in Standard. Mishra's Onslaught, 3 and a red, choose 1, I'm sorry. So you create, so for 4 mana, you can create 2/1/1 colorless soldier, right? If that creature tokens, you can give your creatures you control get +1/+0, or +2/+0 until the end of the turn. This card would have been good in Limited if you could give the soldier tokens haste. I honestly don't think it's that great. The synergy is almost there, but not really. I think it's not a great card in Limited, and I don't think it's a great card in Standard. Monastery Swift, excuse me. Monastery Swiftspear. Is this card playable? It's Monastery Swiftspear. It's absolutely playable. It's a 1 mana, 1/2 with haste and prowess. It's going to be playable and limited, and it's going to see a hell of a lot of play in Standard. We're going to see a lot of mono red aggro involving Monastery Swiftspear. Obliterating Bolt, 1 and a red. Sorcery, deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and if they die this turn, exile instead. It's a Magma Coil. Definitely going to see play, and maybe probably in decks that are a little bit less aggressive. That being said, paying 2 mana to deal 4 damage to something's pretty relevant for red. So yeah, this card is very, very good in Limited. It's one of the better pieces of removal for Limit, and Standard. We'll see, probably. Magma Coil saw a lot of play, so why wouldn't this? Over the top. 5 and 2 red. Each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control, and then they put all permanents they revealed this way onto the battlefield and the rest into the graveyard. Funny card in Standard. Honestly, I love card effects like this. It gives me Warp World vibes. The idea is you literally just create a bunch of tokens and they go really wide with all the permanents that you have, power stones, blah blah blah, and then go ape with the over the top and like outdo your opponent. Limited, this card's probably not going to see any play. It's really hard to do it, pull off in limited. That being said, if you get a bunch of Power Stone tokens in limited and then manage to pull that off, you stand corrected. We'll see. Probably very, very not likely in limited. Standard, also very likely not going to happen, but in other Eternal formats like Commander, that'll be a funny card. Pendragon Strongbow, 2 and a red for a 2/3. You can pay 1 to sack an artifact, give it +1/+1, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Very aggressive card. Good in limited, probably not in standard. Pyrrhic Blast. I think it's actually Pyrrhic. I don't remember the actual pronunciation of Pyrrhic. Pyrrhic. I think Pyrrhic. Just means doing something at a cost too great to warrant doing said thing. So, instant. 3 and a red as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. It deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target, draw a card. So it's kind of a fling, a 4-mana fling that draws a card. Probably not good enough in limited, probably not good enough in standard, let's be quite honest. Flings wasn't good enough. Why would a 4-mana version of Fling be good enough? That being said, there are big creatures that we wouldn't mind throwing back from the graveyard and then blowing up Fling, so we'll have to wait and see, but I don't see it doing very well. Nearing the end of red cards. Raise to ground, 2 and a red. This spell can't be countered. Destroy target artifact. If its mana value is 1 or less, draw a card. So you can blow up somebody's Power Stone and draw a card, I guess. So deprive them of ramp, draw a card, or you can just blow up an artifact. I'm not sure how many artifacts are going to be that's worth targeting that's mana value is 1 or less, draw a card, but it'll be 3 mana being able to blow up somebody's artifact without being countered. Unlimited, sure. Okay. Standard, no. Rock Hunter, 1 and a red for a 3/1 with reach. Very playable and limited. Standard. Sardian Cliff Stomper, 1 and a red for a 0/4. As long as your turn, you can control 4 or more mountains, which is very hard to do. Sardian Cliff Stomper gets +X+O, where X is the number of mountains you control. I don't know. That's an iffy one, because it's like it's a 2-mana 0/4 until you get 4 mountains, and there's no guarantee that you're playing. Yeah, I think even mono red it's too slow. I think in limited it's way too slow, because you're probably not going to be playing. You're not going to have 4 mountains in play. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's a good card in either format. Sibling Rivalry, 3 and a red. Gain control of target artifact or creature until the end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste until the end of turn, and then you create a tap Power Stone. So it's a treason effect. Creates a Power Stone for 4 mana. But you can gain control of an artifact. Is that relevant? Maybe. Probably. Not. I don't know. I see treason effects have been known to end games in limited, so it's probably good enough. It also creates a Power Stone token, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Standard, I don't think so. Tomacool Scrapsmith, 2 and a red for a 2/1. Whenever it ETBs, mill 3, and you can put an artifact card among the mill cards this way into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter at Scrapsmith. Card draw, good enough and limited. That can potentially make the thing a 3-mana 3/2. If you keep it, it's a 3-mana 2/1 draw an artifact. So, seems good. Tyrant of Kara Ridges, it's a 6-mana 4/5. It's technically a little bit better than Shivan. It's much better than Shivan Dragon. Whenever it ETBs, deal 4 damage to any target, and you can pay a red to give it fire breathing. And the limited bomb. Obviously, it's a very good card. Dealing 4 to anything. It's a Shivan Dragon that deals 4 and it has +1 more toughness. And sadly, it's not playable in standard. Shivan Dragon does not get people excited anymore. Gives you an idea of how far we've come when it comes to terms of balance and stuff like that. Standard, it's not playable. In limited, very much so. It is playable. Figure that one out. Unleash Shell. Nice pun. 3 and 2 red for an instant, deal 5 damage to target creature, planeswalker, and 2 damage to that permanent's controller. Limited playable? Probably yes. Standard no. Unleash Shell, I feel like there's better options for your removal though. Visions of Phyrexia. 2 and 2 red. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Okay. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't play a card from the exile this turn, you create a tap Firestone token. Is this good enough in standard? Absolutely not. Way too slow. In limited, probably not too. But, I mean, drawing an extra card each turn could be potentially good. Whirling Strike, 1 in a red. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike and trample till the end of the turn. It's a good combat check. Unlimited, that's about it. Blitz Automaton, 7 mana, 6/4 with haste. I feel like this card's actually going to see play in standard because you can prototype it for 3 mana, so 2 in a red for a 3/2 with haste. I think it's good enough. It's definitely going to see it's very good in limited. Pelagic Dragon Engine, 8 mana, 5/5 with flying, and then it has baby fire breathing, or like worse fire breathing, so you can get +1/+0 for 2 mana. Is it going to see play? I mean, you can play it for 3 mana, get a 1/3 flyer, and then pay 2 to buff it. I don't think so. It's probably not good enough. By the way, Demolisher, 7 mana, Menace, 8/6. At the beginning of your upkeep, tap Heavyweight Demolisher unless you pay 3. And then you can unearth it for 8. Probably good enough unlimited. That's a nice top end unlimited and standard now. Mishra's Juggernaut, 5 mana, 5/3. Trample. It attacks each combat if able, because it's a Juggernaut. And you can unearth it for 6. So definitely not playable in standard and probably not playable in limited. It's kind of weak. Mishra's Research Desk, 1 mana artifact. And you can pay 1 and tap and sack it. You can exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. And then you can unearth it. It's kind of weak red card draw, essentially. I think it's good enough to play in limited, and it might be good enough to play in standard if your artifact matter. You can unearth it and always get another card later, so it's not bad, man. Phyrexian Dragon Engine. This is a 3 mana 2/2 with double strike. Whenever Phyrexian Dragon Engine enters the battlefield from your graveyard, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards. I mean, a 3 mana 2/2 with double strike is already good enough. You can unearth it for 5 and, you know, draw 3, especially if you don't have anything in your hand. That's super relevant. It's a very good limited card. And, it melded Mishra, but we can look at the backside now. So whenever it TBs or you're probably not going to be melding this unlimited, by the way. When Mishra, Lust of Phyrexia, enters the battlefield or attacks, choose 3. Target opponent discards 2 cards. This is whenever they enter the battlefield, too. So, or attack. Choose 3 of these. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Mishra deals 3 damage to any target. Destroy target artifact or planeswalker. Wow. Creatures you control gain menace and trample until the end of the turn. Creatures you don't control get -1/-1 until the end of the turn, or create 2 tapped Power Stone tokens. I mean, obviously that's good. It does a lot of things. Scrapwork Mud. 2 mana, 2/1. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card if you draw a card. Very good. Good enough and limited. You can unearth it and do that again. Limited, standard, probably not, but limited, yes. Skitterbeam Battalion. 9 mana for a 2/2. Trample haste. Whenever it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, create 2 tokens that are copies of it. So you can pay 5 mana to get 3 2/2s with Trample on Haste, or you can pay 9 mana to get 3 4/4s with Trample on Haste. Very good game-ending card. I think it's a very good limited card. Will it see standard play? I don't know. Probably not. Alloy Animist, it's 1 green for a 1/1. You can pay 2 and a green. It's a human druid. You can pay 2 and a green until the end of your turn. Until the end of turn, target non-creature artifact you control becomes a 4/4 artifact. Power Stones. That's all I gotta say. It's definitely playable in limited. I don't think it's playable in standard, but it could surprise you. Argothian Opportunist, 2 and a green for a 3/2. Whenever it ETBs, create a tapped Power Stone token. Good enough. 3 mana 3/2 with an upside. Good enough. Argothian Sprite, 1 and a green for a 2/2. It's a fairy. It can't be blocked by artifact creatures, and you can pay 2. I'm sorry, you can pay 7 to put 2 +1/+1 counters on Argothian Sprite. Is it good enough? And let it, yes, standard now. Audacity, 1 green, enchant creature, and it gets +2/+0 and has trample. Whenever Audacity is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Absolutely, yeah, that's a good card. That's a good little thing to slap on your creatures and limited. In standard now. Awaken the Woods. So X2 green, create X 1/1 green forest dryad land creature tokens. They're literally just dryads that are 1/1s, and they're also kind of forests. Is this good and limited? Yeah. Absolutely. Flooding the board with tokens is always awesome. Is it good in standard? Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be able to ramp into massive things and pay giant X costs. Oh yeah, we love this card. Also, we like tokens. Blanchwood Armor. 2 and a green, enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +1/+1 for each force you control. If you're playing mono green Stompy, absolutely. Limited, probably not. You're playing 2 colors, so it's not very good. But like I said, you're probably playing that mono green Stompy, so standard, yes. Limited, no. Blanchwood Prowler. It's a 1 and a green for a, enter the battlefield, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them, mill this way. This card is pretty alright. I mean, at best, it's a... I mean, it'll be a 2-mana 1/1 that grabs you a land, or a 2-mana 2/2 that gets rid of things off the top of your library. So it's okay and limited, and it's not playable in standard. Burrowing Razormaw, 2 and a green for a 4/2. Whenever it dies, mill 4 cards. Okay. I mean, it's a 3-mana 4/2, and limited, that's good. Standard, no. Bushwhack. This card's good. 1 green. You can choose one. You can search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. Or target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Bushwhack, as you can see the pun there. Yes, this card's very good. Mostly because it's flexible. If it was just one or these other effects, it wouldn't be very good. But unlimited, it's very strong and standard. I think I'll see play. Sitnul Steward. That'll be 1 green for a 1/1, and you can tap untapped artifact or creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. So you can tap down your Power Stone tokens to make mana that you can spend on non-artifact things. There you go. Very good and limited. I don't think it's playable in standard. Epic Confrontation. 1 and a green for a sorcery. The fact that this is a sorcery makes it iffy. Target creature you control gets +1/+2, and then it fights target creature you don't control. So, let's see. Fade from History. 2 Epic Confrontation will be good and limited, and standard I won't see any play. Fade from History. It's a 2 and 2 green for a sorcery. For each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 bear, and then you destroy all artifacts and enchantments. This card is devastating and limited, and it'll be devastating in standard if we see a lot more artifacts and enchantments. The fact that you literally just give your opponent a 2/2, or you yourself make a 2/2 and then blow up the entire board of all artifacts and enchantments. This card's very devastating. And it has cute hairs on it. I guess it's supposed to make you feel better about losing your entire board. Pelagia yes, very playable and limited, very playable and standard. Pelagia Excavation, 3 and 2 green. Create 3 tapped Power Stone tokens and gain 3 life. Paying 5 mana to ramp is kind of iffy. Having those Power Stone tokens to do things later is always great, but it's probably a trap and limited, and it's not good in standard. Fauna Shaman, 1 and a green for a 2/2. You can pay a green to tap and discard a creature card. A lot of people know what Fauna Shaman already does, but you search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand. Is this card playable in limited? Absolutely. Is this card playable in standard? Hell yes. Start grabbing up a creature that you want. If you get a Fauna Shaman and play it, and then you're just like, oh, well, I want a bigger creature than something I just drew, get rid of it and get a bigger creature. Fauna Shaman will see play, and it's very good in limited, and it's very good in standard. It's cool to see it back in standard. Fog of War, 2 in green. You gain 1 life for each creature on the battlefield. That could be potentially a large amount of life. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures with power 3 or less. This could be very good if you managed to swing with something big and you want to get rid of the Death Touch creature that your opponent has. That's the first scenario I'm really thinking of, is literally just playing this whenever your opponent has a Death Touch creature and you have something big and you just want to, like, get rid of the Death Touch creature and not lose your big old creature. But yeah, no, I see Fog of War being a potentially very great card. I don't think it's going to see play in standard, but in limited, yeah, it's definitely a card that you would like to play in limited. If you're playing a less aggressive green deck, I mean. Gaia's Courser, 4 and a green for a 4/5, already somewhat playable and limited. Whenever it attacks, if there are 3 or more creature cards in your graveyard, draw a card. Oh yeah, this card's very good in limited. Standard, probably not. Definitely not. Gaia's Gift, 1 and a green, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains Reach, Trample, Hexproof, and Indestructible until the end of the turn. Reach, Trample, Hexproof, Indestructible. Really good. It's like one of the best combat tricks you can have in limited. Standard, I don't know. That's a weird one. Giant Growth, target creature gain +3/+3 until the end of turn. Classic Giant Growth, very playable and limited. It's a good combat trick. I don't know if it's good as Guy's Gift, but standard, probably not. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think so. Gnarlroot Pallbearer, 4 and 2 green for a 5/5 with trample, already playable. Whenever it ETBs, target creature gets +X/+X until the end of turn. X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. It's usually going to be like 3 or 4, unless your opponent somehow removed your whole graveyard, which there's a chance they did that in limited. Is it playable? Yes, 6 mana, 5/5 trample is always playable. In limited, standard, no. Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, 2 and a green for a 2/3, and she's an Elf Druid Scout. You can tap to add 2 mana in any combination of colors, and you can spend this to only cast creature spells or activate abilities of a creature or creature card. Activate abilities of a creature or creature card. I think I see what they're doing. Okay. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on it and untap it. Gwenna's going to be amazing in green. If you want a big green stompy deck, Gwenna is going to be the center of it. Limited, she'll be very good because adding 2 mana is always relevant. Like, I mean, she's a very good mana dork. Standard, we'll have to wait and see. I think she will see play because she's very good 3 mana, 2/3 that can potentially draw out a creature spell power 5 or greater, such as Gnarlroot Pallbearer and limited. And there's obviously a lot bigger creatures like Vorinclex. I don't think Vorinclex is not in standard anymore. There's a lot of examples. I just can't think of any. But yeah, this card's very good. In both limited and standard. Hoarding Recluse, 3 and a green for a 2/3 reach death touch. Whenever it dies, put one other target card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. Very playable and limited, not playable all in standard. Obstinate Baloth, so it's a 4 mana 4/4. Whenever it ETBs, gain 4 life. And if an opponent would cause you to discard Obstinate Baloth, you put it on the battlefield instead of your graveyard. This card's probably very I would play a 4 mana 4/4 in limited that gains 4 life. In standard, I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of I mean, there's a decent amount of discard going on, but I don't know if that justifies the mean there, so. Have to wait and see. Perimeter Patrol, whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+0 until the end of the turn. Sarenth Steelseeker. Oh, actually, I just completely skipped over this card. It's a 3 mana 3/3 that has an upside. It's playable and limited, not in standard. Sarenth Steelseeker, 1 and a green for a 1/2. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may reveal it, put it into your hand, and if you don't, you may put it into your graveyard. Card's very, very good and limited. I've seen it played and does absolute work. It just filters the top of your library like a blue or black card would. Definitely very, very good and limited standard. Shoot down, exile target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Yeah, paying 4 mana to do that at sorcery speed though feels really bad. So I would say probably don't put it in your deck in limited. Standard, obviously not. Thomas' Tinkering, 3 and a green, so you put 2 +1/+1 counters on target artifact, creature, or land you control. Untap that permanent. If it is not a creature, it becomes a 0/0 in addition to its other types. Yeah, making a creature out of something that you have, so like if you just do it to a Power Stone, I mean, I don't know, why would you... Paying 4 mana to make a creature out of something that you have on the board, unless you can benefit from it, it's not a good card. It's an instant speed. It's instant speed, though, so I don't know. It might be... It's definitely playable in limited. Standard, no. Teething Wormlet. This card is very good. Okay. 1 green, it has Death Touch as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. And whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life. If this is the first time it's resolved this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on Teething Wormlet. Insane Unlimited, probably very busted in standard. We'll have to wait and see. Titania, Voice of Gaia. She is 1 and 2 green for a 3/4 with reach, already super playable. Whenever 1 more land cards are put into your graveyard from the battlefield from anywhere, you gain 2 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 more land cards in your graveyard and you you own both Titania and a land named Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, exile them and then nub them. Get to that. Titania's command, 4 and 2 green, choose 2. Exile target creature's graveyard. I mean, Titania is definitely playable and limited. The flip side is probably what you're going to be looking at in standard, and I'll come back to that when we reach the flip side. Titania's command, 4 and 2 green. Choose 2, exile target player's graveyard. You gain 1 life for each card exiled this way. Oof, nasty. Search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Create 2/2/2 bear green, 2/2/2 green bear creature tokens, sorry. Or put 2+1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Paying 6 mana to make 2 bears and then make them 4/4s, so you're paying 6 mana for 2 4/4s. Very good, unlimited. The niche things that you would be doing is grabbing land cards and put them onto the battlefield. If you manage to, I mean, this obviously synergizes with Titania because you can find Argoth. Exile target player's graveyard. That's definitely a relevant card. If green's going to be relevant at all, this card's going to be played. It's very good. Limited, yes. Standard, yes. Limited, it's basically pretty much all the time you're going to be making 2 bears that become 4/4s. Tomacool Honor Guard, 1 and green for a 3/1 with Ward 2. Is it good enough in Limited? Maybe. Is it good enough in Standard? No. Wasteful Harvest, 2 and a green. Mill 5 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them. When the card's milled this way into your hand, it's 3 mana, instant draw card, essentially, for green. Good enough in Limited, not in Standard. Boulder Branch Golem, 7 mana, 6/5. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to its power. Huzzah. Prototype, you pay 3 and a green for a 3/3. Yes, this card's very playable and limited. If you're paying 4 mana for a 3/3 that gives you 3 life, that's nothing to ever sneeze at. If you're paying 7 mana for a 6/5 that gives you 6 life, that's very good. Very good in limited, not in standard. Cradle Clear Cutter. 6 mana for a 3/6, and you can tap to add amount of green equal to Cradle Clear Cutter's power. Prototype, you can pay it for 2 and green for... You can play it for 2 and a green, for 1/3, and you can add essentially 1 green. It's okay in limited. It's not playable in standard. Haywire Might, 1 and a 1 mana for a 1/1. Whenever it dies, you gain 2 life. You can pay a green to sacrifice Haywire Might to exile target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. Very playable card. I think it's going to play in a lot of formats that people don't expect. In limited, yes. In standard, yes, absolutely. Non-creature artifact, non-creature enchantment, blowing up your opponent's stuff with a 1/1. That always feels good. Ironclaw Crusher, 7 mana for a 4/6. Whenever it attacks, target attacking creature gets +X/+0, where X is Ironclaw Crusher's power, and you can play it as a 4 mana 2/5. Good enough standard, or good enough for limited? Yeah, standard now. Mask of the Jadecrasher, this card's very strong. You can pay 2 mana, and you can pay X and tap and sack it to create an XX colorless golem artifact creature token, activate only as a sorcery, and then you can unearth it later. If you have a bunch of Power Stone tokens in your deck, which you probably will if you're playing green, or if you have a bunch of ramp, either or, you're definitely going to be making massive creatures with this. It's very unlimited. I don't think you're going to see playing standard. It's a little too slow, but limited, absolutely, it's disgusting. Perennial Behemoth, Perennial Behemoth, excuse me. 5 mana for a 2/7 artifact creature beast. You may play land cards from your graveyard, and then you can unearth it for 2 green and bring back a 2/7. 5 mana for a 2/7 to play lands from your graveyard. In limited, no, that's probably not that great. In standard, there's probably some goofy stuff you can do with it. You can unearth it later if you wanted to play a single land from your graveyard, get a little bit more land on the battlefield. I think it's okay in limited because it's just such a massive toughness body and it has a decent upside. Standard, it'll probably have some sort of niche thing that I am not quite seeing yet, but say Crucible of Worlds, I guess. It's okay. Rootwire Amalgam, 5 mana for a 5/5 prototype. You may cast a spell. Okay, well, obviously you can pay the additional cost. It'll be 1 mana. It'll be a 1 and a green for a 2/3. Or it'll be a 5 mana 5/5. And you can pay 3 and 2 green to sack it and create an XX colorless golem artifact creature token where X is 3 times the amount of its power, and then it gains haste until the end of the turn. So you can pay 5 mana to sacrifice Rootwire Amalgam if you play it as a prototype, to make a 6/6 with haste, or you can pay the 5 and a 5/5 and then sack it and then make a 15/15 with haste. Very good card. Gonna see play in standard. Definitely very good and limited. How many cards do we have left? Not too many. Okay. Okay. Rust Goliath, 10 mana for a 10/10. Prototype, you can pay 3 and 2 green for a 3/5, and it has Reach and Trample. Playable and limited? Yeah, sure, it's Reach and Trample. Are you going to play it as a 10 mana thing? Probably not very often, but with Power Stones, oh yeah, there's a chance. Simian Simulacrum, 3 mana for a 2/1. Whenever it ATBs, you put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature you control, and then you can unearth it for 4. 3 mana making a 4/3, good. 3 mana getting a 2/1, and then potentially making another creature have +2+1/+1 counters on it. I think it's good enough. It's definitely good in limited. It's probably playable in standard, surprisingly. Arbalest Engineers, this card's very good. 1 in a green and a red, excuse me. For a 2/2 human artificer, whenever it ETBs, you deal 1 damage to any target. You choose one of the following. Deal 1 damage to any target, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and give it trample and haste, or create a tap Power Stone token. More often than not, you're creating a tap Power Stone token, but you can deal 1 damage to any target, ping something and kill it. Arbalest Engineers is a very flexible card. If you are playing green-red and you have that card in your limited pool, absolutely play it. Excuse me. Battery Bearer, 2 in a green and a blue for a 3/4 human artificer. Creatures you control have tap, add colorless mana. This mana cannot be spent to cast a non-artifact spell, so it makes all of your things Power Stones, essentially. And whenever you cast an artifact spell, mana value 6, you create a draw a card. Very good card. If you're playing green-blue in limited, and you have massive creatures that you want to get out, or things that you want to ramp into, Battery Bearer is the card you would like to play. Deathbloom Ritualist, 3 black and a green for a 3/5 Elf Warlock. You can tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Is this card good? Potentially, yes. In limited, probably not. In standard, there's a chance that you can get a hell of a lot of mana, but 5 mana for a 3/5 dork is not very promising. In limited, it's 5 mana for a 3/5, so at least it's a blocker until it actually does something, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's that impressive. Limited, probably good enough. Standard, no. Evangelosynthesis, it's a blue and a black for a 2/3, which is already good. Then you're paying 2 mana for a 2/3. Whenever ATBs, draw a card and discard a card. And if you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, excuse me, if you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, it has +1/+0 and has mana. So whenever it ATBs, it's a 2 mana 3/3 until the end of the turn. Okay, it's a 2 mana 2/3. I mean, that's pretty good enough. And then it has an upside. Sure. Good and limited, probably not super good in standard, but I'll have to wait and see. Pelagi Vanguard, 2, a red, and a white for a 2/3 with first strike. Whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of the turn. Is this good enough? If you're playing red, white, and limited, yeah, standard, no, definitely not. But this card, 4 mana 2/3, gives something +2/+0, and as first strike, I mean, at least it's a good blocker too. It's also a good attacker, so yeah, I think it's good enough. Unlimited, standard, no. Bajar Loyal Bodyguard, green and a red for a 3/3, and you can sack it and give legendary creatures you control +1/+0 and gain indestructible until the end of the turn. Very good card. 2 mana 3/3 with an upside. Absolutely. There's a lot of legendary creatures in this set, and that's definitely going to see play in standard, because green-red legends, even after Bard Clash rotated out, I think it's still a good deck. So that would probably make it very good. Limited, very playable. Standard, very playable. Harbin, Vanguard Aviator. It's a blue and a white for a 3/2 flyer. Whenever you attack with 5 or more soldiers, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain flying to the end of the turn. This card, whenever you play it and the second effect triggers, it's pretty much game ending. Very good card. It's a very good limited card. If you have this card in your pool, you probably want to somehow splash white and black, or white or blue, or just play straight up white, blue, and then something else, soldiers. I mean, 3/2 flyer for 2 is really strong. Hero of the Dunes, 3 a white and a black for a 3/2. Also a Harping Soldier, obviously. Hero of the Dunes is a human soldier as well. 5 mana for 3/2. Whenever it ETBs, you may return target artifact or creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Creatures you control with mana value 3 or less get +1/+0. Is this card good? Yes, and limited. In standard, probably not. Seems a little bit too slow. But other than that, the card's actually really solid. I'd say it's a limited bomb. I wouldn't say it's as strong as a bomb, but it's a good card. Junkyard Genius, 1 black and a red for a 2/2. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you create a Power Stone token. You can pay 1 black and a red and sacrifice another creature or artifact and give other creatures you control +1/+0 menace. Game-ending card. This card is very good and limited. It actually might somehow see play in Standard because of the black-red artifact deck. The idea of sacrificing a cheap artifact to buff your board when you have a bunch of 1/1s and stuff like that and give them menace, that can be a very, very much a game-ending effect. I think Junkyard Genius is a card that's really good and limited and to kind of shine in Standard, I think, in the right deck. Legions to Ashes. 1 white and black. Exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls, and all tokens that player controls with the same name as that permanent. Obviously, it's just cleaning up tokens. As you're gonna see, it says exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls. For 3 mana, it's a sorcery. That's the only thing that would make this very appetizing to play in Standard, and limited, you're definitely playing this because it's good removal. But other than that, yeah, I think it's a very good limited card. There's a chance it'll be playing Standard, but probably. Let's... Mishra claimed by Gix. This would be the other side of Mishra. So whenever you attack, each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of attacking creatures. If Mishra, yeah, so basically if you control Mishra and Phyrexian Dragon Engine, and they're both attacking, you meld them into that creature we were talking about earlier. 4 mana for a 3/5 whenever you attack, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life where X is the attack, a number of attacking creatures. Mishra by himself is very good, even if you didn't manage to get the other side of him. This Mishra, however, Mishra Tamer of Mach Follow. 3 black red for 4/4 permanent. So you control have ward, sacrifice a permanent, very strong. Each artifact card in your graveyard has Unearth. 1 black red. 5 mana 4/4. Give everything ward, sack a permanent, and give your artifacts and artifact cards in your graveyard Unearth. That card is, this card is very good, and it will see play very much so. And I think it'll see play in limited. Well, I mean, it's so good in limited. I think it'll see play in Standard. We'll have to wait and see though. Queen Kayla Bin Krug, 1 red and a white for a 2/3. Legendary creature, Human Noble. You can pay 4 to discard all the cards in your hand and then draw that many cards, and you can choose an artifact creature card with mana value 1 you discarded this way, and the same with an artifact for artifact and creature cards with mana values 2 and 3. Return those cards to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, this card, people are sleeping on this. You can essentially just dump your hand and drop a CMC 1, 2, and 3 card onto the battlefield. I think this card's being slept on a little bit too much. I think it's a good card. I think it'll see play in Standard, and it's definitely good and limited. Saheeli Filigree Master, 2 a blue and a red. I'm glad to see Saheeli again. She's one of my favorite walkers. She is 3 loyalty, starting. You can pay 1 to scry 1, and you can untap an untapped artifact you control. Or you may tap an untapped artifact you control, and then draw a card. You can -2 to create 2 1/1 colorless stopped or artifact creature tokens with flying, and they gain haste. And then you can -4 to get an emblem with artifact creatures you control get +1/+1, and artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It's really not hard to get her ultimate off. I feel like there's some sort of red-blue deck out there that's looking for Saheeli to buff the board. It's really not that hard to get her ultimate off, like I said. If you could somehow manage to play Saheeli 1 turn, +1 her to tap like a Power Stone or something, and then draw a card after scrying, it's really good. Honestly, just creating 2 Thopters is good enough too. But I really like the idea of playing her and activating her as soon as she hits the field, and then the next turn you ultimate her. And then you can play another one in Standard. In Limited, this card's stupid. Like, this card's really good in Limited. It does quite a bit. So I think it's very good in Limited, and you should definitely play it if you open in your packs. If you're lucky enough to open it in your packs. Okay. Let me take a drink. Good lord. Okay. Seventh Great Worm. 4 a red and a green for a 7/6 trampler, which is already great. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, let me read that again. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, create a tapped Power Stone token. That means whenever your opponent's lands enter the battlefield too. This card will be amazingly good and limited. It's a 6 mana 7/6 with trample, which is already really good. It'll probably see playing standard. So this card's just really insanely strong. I mean, it's gonna see play in a lot of formats. I think it'll be a really fun commander card too. Not for your opponents. Skyfisher Spider, 2 and a black and a green for a 3/3 with reach, which is already good. It's a spider after all. Whenever it ETBs, you may sack a creature. When you do, you may destroy target non-land permanent. When it dies, you may gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard, and if you do, you exile Skyfisher Spider. Very good, flexible card if you can manage to put black-green in your deck and limited. Standard, I'm not so sure, but limited, very good. Tawnos, the Toy Maker. I did not expect to see Tawnos as a green-blue card, considering the last time we saw Tawnos, he was red-blue. He's a 3/5. Whenever you cast a beast or bird creature spell, you may copy it, except the copy is an artifact in addition to its other types. This card was made for the exact purpose of Commander. They wanted to give a Commander to a couple of types, or a couple of creature types that don't see a lot of play. Excuse me. Limited, no. Birds, 5 mana, 3/5, and there's not a lot of beasts and birds that are relevant. Unlimited, standard, no. Definitely not. Third Path Iconoclast, a blue and a red for a 2/1. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. It's a better version of Young Pyromancer. That's all I gotta say. So yes, it is most certainly playable in standard and is most certainly playable in limited. It's playable in a lot of other formats for that exact reason. It's Cassia, Dig Site Mentor. She is 1 in Bant mana for a 4/3. It's cool to see a 3-color in this set. Creatures you control have Vigilance and tap Surveil 1. And then you can pay 2 green, 2 white, and 2 blue. You can exile her from your graveyard. Return any number of target artifact cards with total mana value 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You can only activate this as a sorcery. A 4-mana 4/3 that gives all of your creatures Vigilance and Surveil 1 is already very good. You can manage to splash 3 colors. Or, yeah, if you manage to splash 3 colors, yeah, that's a very good card. And limited. And standard? I'm not sure. I actually like the implications that this has in standard. Getting back a giant creature. Getting back some sort of massive creature with Cassia in the late game. And having a bunch of Power Stones to activate her exile ability seems not too difficult. But yeah, I think it's definitely really good in limited, and I think it'll be good in standard. The only thing that makes it difficult to play in limited is the amount of different colors it is. So 3 mana in a set like this, where there isn't a lot of fixing. Urza Lord Protector, fixing for creatures specifically. Urza Lord Protector is 1 white and blue for a 2/4 artifact. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Then you can pay 7, so you can pay 7 if you control both Urza and the Might Stone and Weak Stone. And then you can turn them into Urza Planeswalker. Urza Lord Protector, being a 3 mana 2/4 that makes your artifact, instant, and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast, is already super relevant. He's going to be playable, and he's definitely really good in limited. I mean, he's a 3 mana 2/4, and that makes artifacts, instants, and sorceries cost 1 less to play. He makes his command cost 1 less to play. He makes counter spells cost 1 less to play. He's good. In standard, yes, I think there is an entire. I think blue-white control is going to exist almost purely because of this card. Being able to turn into Planeswalker. I mean, I've literally seen people turn 4, turn 5, flip him. So it's not hard to do. And the Power Stones, people keep sleeping on the Power Stones. They keep forgetting that you can use them to pay for abilities like Urza. So yeah, really good. Next Urza we're talking about. Since there's many Urzas, they're just like, how many Urzas should we put in the set? And Wizards of the Coast said all of them. Urza, Prince of Krug, 2, a white and a blue for a 2/3. He's a human artificer, as he's always been. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. Which is really strong. And you can pay 6 to create a token that's a copy of target artifact creature you control, except it's a 1/1 soldier in addition to its other types. Have a giant You have an artifact that has a really cool effect on it on the battlefield, uh, and you make it into a soldier, and it's essentially paying 6 mana for a 3/3. If Urza survives, this card's really good. Limited, yeah, absolutely. Standard, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't think Urza's anywhere near as good as the older version of himself, Lord Protector. But I like the idea of it being an artifact creature standard. I'm not gonna lie. Yodian Dissident. This card's really good. It's a green and a white for a 1/1. Whenever an artifact ETBs, put a, under your control, of course, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. When you're creating a bunch of power stones and stuff like that, this card is not that hard to trigger. Playing this in a limited environment where you have a bunch of artifacts and stuff like that, this card can get very out of hand very quick. I think playing multiple copies of this card in standard will be very good. I think it'll be it's great in limited, and it'll be good in standard. Yodian Tactician. It's a 2, a white, and a blue for a 3/4. Other soldiers you control get +1/+1. 4 mana for a 3/4 that buffs other creatures of a type you're probably playing a few of, or those 1/1 tokens that just so happen to be soldiers. Isn't that crazy? Good card. You're probably going to play it in a deck if you're playing blue-white. Blade Coil Serpent. So Blade Coil Serpent and Clay Champion are both different cards, but they're relevant. Blade Coil Serpent is X and 6, which is a weird mana cost, but it's a 5/4. It ETBs, for each 2 blue you spend to cast it, draw a card. For each 2 black you spend to cast it, each opponent discards a card. And for each double red you spend to cast it, it gets +1/+0, and trample, and haste. So I honestly see this card going into a blue-red deck, and you're playing it for, say, 2 red and 4 blue. Ugly and stupid, I love you. Thank you for the resub, buddy. Thank you, much love to you. You're ugly and stupid too, I love you too, though. Yeah, but Blade Coil Serpent's definitely, you're probably not going to be playing the black side. I mean, discarding opponent's cards is good, but blue and red are much better. Giving it haste and drawing cards is very relevant. No. What do you mean, no? What's your opinion? Give me your expert opinion. Light Champion is the other side, which is green and light, which is probably the better of the two. Clay Champion is, I mean, they're different cards. They're good cards, though. Clay Champion is X and 4 for a 2/2. Whenever he ETBs, he enters with 3 +1/+1 counters for each double green spent to cast it. And for each double white spent to cast it, you choose up to 2 other target creatures you control and put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. Clay Champion is definitely something you're just going to be playing a crapload of green for. If you're playing a green-white deck and you just so happen to have other creatures on the battlefield. You have a Philips Sonicare 4100 power toothbrush with pressure center and 2 intensities up to 5 times better plaque remove. I'm so proud of you, buddy. You're doing so good with brushing your teeth. Clay Champion and Blade Coil Serpent essentially feel the same thing. They're big mana dumps and perfect for limited. Standard, they're going to see a lot of play. Clay Champion's a very good card in standard. You're essentially paying... If you're paying quad green for it, you're essentially paying 4 mana for an 8/8. I mean, it's good. Aeronaut's Wings. 2 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 as flying. It'll be good and limited. That's about it. Standard, no. Argivian Avenger, 6 mana for 5/5. You can pay 1 until the end of the turn. It gets -1/-1, and your choice of flying, death touch, vigilance, or haste. Good and limited. I don't know if it'll be good in standard. Probably not. Limited, yes. Cityscape Leveler. This is a card that we're going to see a lot of. It is an 8 mana 8/8 with trample. Whenever you cast the spell and whenever it attacks, destroy the target up to 1 target non-land permanent. The controller creates a tapped Power Stone token, and it's Unearth 8. This card's definitely going to see play in standard. I think it's a really great card in standard. In limited, yeah, absolutely. If you get this card, you're definitely going to be playing it. It's a huge creature that lets you blow up something. Why wouldn't you play it? Energy Refractor. It's 2 mana. Enters the battlefield, draw a card, which is already really strong. And you can pay 2 mana to add 1 mana of any color, so you can essentially filter your Power Stone mana through this, so you can play other cards. Very flavorful that it's a prison. So yeah, limited, good standard now. Goblin Firebomb, 1 mana flash. You can pay 7 and tap it, sack it, destroy target non-land permanent. And it actually says just destroy target permanent. So if you have a bunch of Power Stone tokens, sure, you can do some nasty stuff like blowing it up, but I honestly think that's a bit of a trap card. You don't really want to play that. Not unlimited, not in standard. Levitating Statue, 2 mana for an artifact that has flying, which is funny because it's an artifact. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. But then you can pay 2 to make it a 1/1 construct artifact creature until the end of your turn. Card's very good. The fact if you can find a way to make it more of a permanent creature, it's a lot better. But the fact that essentially it's a 2 mana 1/1 with flying, and that whenever you cast a non-creature, you put counter on it. It's a pretty damn good card. I'd say it's alright in limited if you have the right depth for it, and it's probably not playable in standard. Liberator, Urza's Battle Thopter. 3 mana for a 1/2 flash flying Thopter. You may cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they had flash, and whenever you cast a spell, the amount of mana spent to cast that spell is greater than than the Thopter's power. Put +1/+1 counter on Liberator. Is this playable in limited? Yes. Is this playable in standard? I think so. I think it's a great card. You can drop some really great artifacts with it at flash or at instant speed, so I really don't see it being a bad card. A 3 mana 1/2 flash flyer that buffs itself whenever you spend mana on something. Yeah, that's good. Might Stone and Weak Stone, 5 mana, legendary artifact Power Stone. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you choose one, draw 2 cards, or target creature gets -5/-5 until the end of the turn, and then you can tap to add 2 colorless, and this mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. This card's very good. The fact that you can either draw 2 cards or remove something from the board, you're probably mostly going to be drawing the cards. The fact that you can pay 2 and use this to meld with Urza, Lord High Artificer. Not Lord High Artificer. Lord Protector. Lord High Artificer is the mono blue one that people get mad about. This melds into Urza if you pay 7. And Urza reads, you may activate the loyalty abilities of Urza twice each turn rather than once. I'm going to open this one up because this one's a little small on the screen. +2, artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast this turn cost 2 less to cast and you gain 2 life. You can activate that twice, make things 4 less to cast. +1, draw 2 cards and then discard a card. 0, create 2 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, or -3, exile target non-land permanent. This card's very strong. There's a high chance that you're going to be getting the ultimate off. But honestly, that's not even the most powerful part of this card, being able to just flip it over, draw a bunch of cards, make your stuff cost less, exiling something. This card does everything that you would want it to do. It's Urza incarnate, just being an incredibly powerful and dominating card. He puts the Dom in Dominaria. It's a very strong card. Are you going to see it flipped and limited? Probably not, unless somebody's really lucky. In standard, yeah, there's going to be an entire blue-white control deck based around Urza. So, there you go. We're getting near the end here, so cool. Mine Worker is tap you gain 1 life if you control creatures named Power Plant Worker and Tower Worker. You gain 3 life instead. 2 mana for a 2/1, and it's okay. Probably better options. Portal to Phyrexia, this is what I was talking about earlier, getting back with like a recursion spell, just like throwing it into your yard and then turning it. So 9 mana, whenever it ETBs, each opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. At the beginning of your upkeep, you put a creature card onto the battlefield under your control from a graveyard, so any graveyard. It's a Phyrexian in addition to its other types, so being able to get this back with your recursion spell and then take something from your graveyard or another graveyard is really powerful. Being able to force your opponent to secondary creatures is always really powerful. Portal to Phyrexia, you'll see a lot of playing standard because it's easy to bounce, or it's not super easy, but it's easy enough to bring back and like have. And if you just so happen to have Urza and you don't have any way to like recur Portal to Phyrexia, you can at least make it cost 4 less and play it for 5 mana. Not going to be hard to do. Limited, there's a chance people will be sneaking that card into play with Power Stones. So. Standard, yes, absolutely. Power Plant Worker, it's a 5 mana 4/4, so it's alright. 3 mana, it gets +2/+2 until the end of the turn. If you control creatures named Mine Worker and Tower Worker, you can put 2 +1/+1 counters on Power Plant Worker instead. Activate once each turn. It's okay. I mean, it's a 5 mana 4/4. If you don't have another 5 drop that's good and limited, go for it. If you do, stop. Standard, no. A Reconstructed Thopter, 3 mana for a 2/1 flying with Unearthed 2. I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It's a 3 mana 2/1 flyer. It's probably good enough and limited. Standard, no. Select Stone Refinery, 4 mana. Whenever Select Stone Refinery or another non-token artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield or is put into exile from the battlefield, create a tapped Power Stone token. So this is like Ichor Wellspring, but it creates, it's like Ichor Wellspring, but it creates Power Stone tokens, and it notices other artifacts getting destroyed. Is it good? Limited, probably not. It's probably some weird, crazy thing you can do it in Standard, but limited is way too expensive and way too slow. But I'm not sure. Non-token artifact, yeah, never mind. It's not gonna be as it's not gonna be as insane as I thought it was. Spectral Sentinel is a 1 mana 1/2 with protection from multicolored. Could be alright. Whenever a non-basic land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you gain 1 life. I mean, I don't know, it's weirdly playable. Limited, yeah, I'd probably play one of these, especially because it's a soldier. I think you might actually want to play this on a soldier deck and in Standard. I think it's just like weirdly mildly playable. I couldn't explain to you why, but it's on 1 mana 1/2 with protection or pro multicolor and gives you a life on non-basics ETB. It's good enough. As the soldier tag, I think it's good enough, and it's an artifact, so it's energizes. Limited, yes. Standard, maybe. Stasis Coffin, 3 mana for a legendary artifact. You can pay 2 to exile Stasis Coffin, and you gain protection from everything until the end of your turn. Commander card, definitely. Limited, no. I mean, limited, it's basically a fog. More often than not. Standard, I don't think so. I mean, it might see some play because it's a really domineering, powerful, like, board. You, like, stop everybody in the tracks kind of hard. But, I don't know, probably not. Steel Exemplar, it's a 5 mana 4/4 trampling wizard, weirdly enough. Whenever it ETBs, it enters the battlefield, 2/1/1 counters on it, unless 2 or more colors of mana were spent to cast it. So if you're only casting it with like mono colors, it is a 5 mana 6/6 Trampler. Is this good and limited? Potentially with Power Stones. As long as you don't spend 2 or more colors of mana to cast it, I think it'll be a 5 mana 6/6 with Trample, so is that good enough? Probably, yeah. Standard, no. Stonebrain. And we're getting to the lands after this. These next few ones, and I'll probably skip over some of these because they're not very relevant. Stonebrain, 2 mana for a legendary artifact, 2 and tap, exile the Stonebrain, choose a card name, search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for up to 4 cards with that name, exile them. That player shuffles and draws a card for each card exiled from their hand. This way, activate only as sorcery. Stonebrain is a sideboard all-star, that's all I can pretty much say. I don't think you're not playing this in limited. Standard, it's like I said, sideboard all-star. It's something that can be grabbed with Karn the Great Creator in Modern, so it'll definitely be seeing a lot of play there. Yeah, no, not playable at all in limited. Standard, sideboard, pretty much must format as sideboard. Stonebrain, though, I mean, like, could you imagine somebody walking around in public with that on? Like wearing that hat, like, you'd be intimidated, right? What? So, Stone Retrieval Unit, 4 mana 2/3. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you get a tap Power Stone token. If you're worried about Power Stones and ramping into something on 4 mana 2/3, is that like a arguable size for something unlimited? Probably not. I think it's 4 mana 2/3. There's a lot of better 4 mana things you could be doing. I would imagine. Obviously not standard playable. Limited probably, hardly. Su-Chi Cave Guard, 8 mana 8/8 with Vigilance and Ward 4. Wow, is that strong? Whenever it dies at 8 colorless until the end of your turn, you don't lose mana as steps and phases end. Is this playable and limited? Yes. Absolutely. It's an 8 mana 8/8 with Vigilance and Ward 4. It's hard to get rid of. And when it does die, you create 8 colorless mana. I'm not sure what the hell you would do with that. I'm sure you could filter it somehow, or like get another giant artifact creature onto the battlefield. Problem is, what you're going to want to do is have it die during your turn, which is iffy, and preferably during one of your main phases you can play something. I don't know. Before your second main phase. Supply drop, 3 mana for an artifact with flash. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target creature you control gets +2/+2 until the end of the turn, so it's weirdly a combat trick. And you can pay 4 to sack, supply drop, and draw a card. 3 mana for a combat trick that gives +2/+2 to a creature, and you can pay 4 to sack it later and draw a card. Is it worth it? It might be good enough. And limited, probably not. Standard, obviously, it's not playable. Swiftgear Drake, 5 mana for a 2/4 flying and haste. Whenever ETBs, put up to 1 target card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. If you're really concerned about having a hasty flyer that can only deal 2 damage and put something to the bottom of somebody's library, sure. Is it playable in limited? Hardly. Is it playable in standard? No. Symmetry Matrix, 4 mana. Whenever a creature with power equal to its toughness enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. 1/1 tokens. Bears. Yeah, anything like tokens are usually going to have like equal power and toughness. So you pay this for 4 mana, and you can pay 1 to essentially draw. It's like a mentor of the Meek almost. You can do it for any side of creatures. Is it playable and limited? Potentially, if you can cheat it out early with some power stones. It's playable in standard. If you can cheat it out early with power stones, I guess. Probably not. I think there's better ways to draw cards. Especially if it's a colorless. If you're putting this into a white deck, I'd see it, but nah. Limited, probably, maybe. Standard, no. Thran Power Suit, 2 mana. Equipped creature, it's +1/+1 for each R and equipment attached to it, and has Ward 2. Playable enough in limited? Maybe. It's +1/+1 has a Ward 2 if you slap the suit on it. For 4 mana. Sure, if you're trying to protect something. Standard, no. I could see this. I could see people loving this in like Voltron decks and stuff like that. That would be the thing I would see this in like Voltron decks and in Commander. Thran Spider, 3 mana for a 2/4 with reach, which is pretty good. Enters the battlefield, you and target opponent each create a Power Stone token, and you can pay 7 to look at the top 4 cards of your library, and you can reveal an artifact from among them, put it into your hand, and then put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I don't like the idea of giving your opponent a Power Stone token, but if your opponent is not doing an artifact plan, it doesn't really matter that much. In limited, it does, because you're giving your opponent a Power Stone token to most certainly make an artifact at some point. It's a 3 mana reach that creates Power Stone token, and that can potentially let you look at only the top 4. You grab an artifact. Is that going to be good enough? Maybe unlimited, not in standard. Tower Worker, 3 mana for a 1/3 reach. You can tap to add 1 colorless, and if you control a creature named Mind Worker and Power Plant Worker, you can add 3 instead. It's playable by itself. It's playable even, like, you don't even have to have the Mind Worker or Power Plant Worker to make it playable, because it's 3 mana, 1/3 reach, and then add a colorless. It's good enough. Unlimited, standard. Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, enters the battlefield, tapped unless you control a legendary green creature. You can pay 2 and 2 green to tap and create a 2/2 bear creature token, then mill 3 cards, and then you activate this only as a sorcery. The whole idea is what you would want Titania, her front side is you gain 2 life every time a land card hits the graveyard, and whenever you have 4 or more lands, in the graveyard, and you control Argoth, she flips over into Titania, Gaia Incarnate. She is a legendary creature, elemental avatar, vigilance, reach, trample, and haste. Has power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. Whenever it ETBs, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, which is very nasty. And you can pay 3 and a green to put 4 +1/+1 counters on target land you control, and it becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. Titania is very big and nasty, and it'll definitely be a really powerful creature. You're not playing Argoth unless you're playing Titania, and vice versa. So, yeah, both really. I think big green's gonna do some stuff. So we're gonna skim over the lands. We got the rest of the cycle of the pain lands, or like the pain yeah, Painlands, I think that's what they're called. Battlefield Forge, red, white, green, white. Blast Zone is one that's interesting. Blast Zone we last saw on War of the Spark. You can pay double X to put X charge counters on it, but it enters the charge counter, and you can pay 3 to sack it and destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. Playable, absolutely, yeah. It's kind of see by in control decks. Evolving Wilds. Demolition Field. Tap to add 1 colorless, or you can pay 2 and sack it, destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. A land controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, and then you may search your library for a basic land card and put it on the battlefield and then shuffle. Doesn't have to be tapped. So, is it... I'm trying to think of something to compare it to. I think it's like a Ghost Quarter, kinda, sorta, maybe. Fortified Beachhead. This is a relevant one for your soldiers, for the soldier decks out there. Also, Blast Zone and Demolition Field are... Blast Zone is something you'd probably play in limited. Demolition Field, no. Fortified Beachhead. If it enters the battlefield, you may reveal a soldier card from your hand. If you do, it enters the battlefield tapped unless you reveal it. Yeah, so it essentially enters the battlefield unless you reveal a soldier or you control a soldier already. And it adds white or blue, and you can pay 5 to give your soldiers +1/+1 until the end of the turn. Very solid card, very good card. If you manage to get that in your limited pool, very good card, especially if you're playing soldiers, obviously. In standard, yeah, it's definitely something you want to be playing if you wanted to play soldiers. Hall of Tagzin. You can tap to add 1 colorless. You can pay 1 to add 1 mana of any color, or you can pay 4 to create a tap Power Stone creature. I keep saying creature token. You can pay 4 to create a tap Power Stone token. Is this card good because you're getting Power Stone tokens? Sure. But is it really that good because it's a filter land that's a rare? Oh, iffy. Creating a Power Stone token unlimited is great, especially if you have a bunch of spare mana. Llanowar Wastes. So you can, that's another one of the pain lands. It's the black-green one. Mishra's Foundry. This is card's relevant. So you can add colorless, or you can pay 2 to make it a 2/2 assembly worker as that creature until the end of your turn, and it's still a land, and then you can also tap it to give a target attacking assembly worker +2/+2 until the end of the turn, which means if you have multiple Mishra's Foundries, you can use 1 Mishra's Foundry to buff the other creature that it's been made into. So it's a really, really good land card. Land creatures, and in Standard, have always been very strong. Tocassia's Dig Site. You can pay 1 to add a colorless, so you can tap 3 and surveil 1. Good enough. Honestly, if I had that, I think I would add it if I wasn't too worried about color fixing. And that is it, I believe. Yeah, that's just everything else is the extended border. So, what do I think Standard's going to look like? I think Standard's going to be shaped up a lot. All of these cards, the set is very powerful. It's a very powerful one. And Limited's going to be a very fun format. So catch me tomorrow at 5 p.m. CST, joined by the Shady Sail, as we are going to actually play through Sealed, and I will try to find a person to raid into. There's nobody live right now, so thank you very much, folks. I appreciate you hanging out with me these past 3.5 hours, and much love you, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow and play some Magic together. And I see you.